And there we are. Now we're the 220-1001 Core 1 A+ study group, and it'll actually work on my website now. Let's try if I refresh. You're looking over my shoulder here at my own site. If we refresh and hit the button, look, now it works. How nice when I do the right thing on my side. Let's delete that one that we just did, that 5-minute horrible thing, whatever that was. We're going to nuke it. It's gonna go away. And then I have to rebuild it, which is just annoying. So that was, did it even keep it? It's not even there yet. We'll have to go back later and refresh. They haven't even processed it yet. But we'll figure it out. We got 5 minutes to go. Now, hi, everybody. Hi, chat room. I got to fix my chat. That's not the right one. Let's go into the correct live stream here. There we go. My control room so that I could see everybody. Hey, everybody. Hey, everybody. Oh, what am I doing? You got to wonder sometimes, right? Let's pop out the chat. That's an easy fix, though. There's nothing we can't fix. And we'll put that there. See? It's just that easy. All right. Hi, chat room, everybody. Glad we figured that out now. Don't do that anymore. Let's not do that. So, gotta get this ready to go. We got 5 minutes. This is the Core 1 A+ study group, not the Security Plus study group. Oh, the Security Plus study group this week or this month lasted 5 minutes, and then it was over. So that wasn't good for anybody. I was just also looking at hurricanes. You can kind of see this over my shoulder. I'll probably put it up so you could see it a little better. Is this me? That's me. So I'll just, only worried about how I think this is going to come through on Wednesday. Let's pop this out. It's going to come through on Wednesday. So between now and the live stream on Thursday, by the time the live stream on Thursday starts, it'll be in North Carolina. So hopefully that'll be well past us at that point. For those of you not familiar, we're in North Florida, sort of in the middle. So we're sort of outside the cone of where the actual storm is going, but not outside the effects of the storm. But that's sort of normal. It's kind of what we do here in Florida. Franklin passed 501. Congratulations. Well done with that. That's all. And I know there's going to be a lot of people this month that are working on getting that 501 done before it retires at the end of the month. So good job with that. It's always a challenge making sure. Let's delete that live stream. Let's see if they processed it yet, because that's going to be a kind of a boring live stream. I don't even see it. It's not even there. We'll have to delete it later, I suppose. We'll refresh this page. See what happens. Nothing happens. Well, we'll keep the other replays there. I'm sure that they will get around to fixing that. It takes a few minutes. Do I consider the 601 to be much more difficult? It is more difficult because it is certainly a much larger exam. It's like 30% larger than the 501. So the amount of information you have to memorize is much larger, and therefore it's more difficult. But I think the method, the question style, the exam itself is very comparable to the 501 in the difficulty of the questions. So there you go. That's sort of from both perspectives. The A+ does not retire in January. No. A+ probably still going to be around this time next year. Maybe just before this. Probably into June or July of next year. So we'll talk about that on this. You got plenty of time. Plenty. How do you know if you're ready for the A+ 1001? Well, you'll find out today. We will do this. All right, I need to bring up this is the wrong screen. This needs to go over here. This needs to go over here. This needs to go over there. This needs to go. All right, now we got something. Let's get this happening. We got less than a minute to go, which means I need to get my Keynote running here and Keynote running here. Green light, yes. Yes, very nice. Is the A+ hard? What are the most important, helpful things to learn? What good questions? You are in the right place to get these questions answered. Stick around. We'll be talking about all that. Absolutely. We are going to do a 601 Security Plus study group later in the month. So in a couple weeks. Okay. Is it top of the hour? It's almost top of the hour. We're almost ready to get started. I should probably move some things around on my screen here. And it is the top of the hour. How quickly things go when you have to fix all of the problems you created when you did the live stream. The time just flies by, which means we can get started. Let's go, everybody. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the July 2021 Professor Messer A+, specifically Core 1 A+ study group. Yes, Core 1. If you watched the pre-show, then you know perhaps we weren't quite certain what we were going to do today. I was certain, but nobody else was because I clicked the wrong buttons. But that's okay, because now we've clicked the right buttons, and now you're in the right place. This is our Core 1 220 1001 study group. Today, I am going to, in this first hour, ask you questions that come directly from the CompTIA exam objectives for the 220 1001. And in the second hour, I'll open up phone lines. I'll take questions from the chat room. We've already been talking to the chat room a bit since we were talking there. So that all worked out very, very well. If you would like to participate, if you are here live, you can do this. You can participate by going to professormesser.com/QA. There is questions and answers. When you get there, we'll talk about that in just a moment. There's also an app you can get for your mobile device. You can get it from your favorite app store. It is called the Socrative Student app. Make sure you get the student app and not the teacher app, the Socrative Student app. And if you use that application, or app as the kids call it, you will need to put in the proper room name. The room name is Professor Messer, all one word, PROFESSORMESSER, and that'll get you where you need to be. That is, if you do all of that, if you go to pop up a new browser and go to professormesser.com/QA, or you use the app, either way, then you will see there is a question waiting for you. We call this our rewind question. And this question asks, a system administrator has upgraded a system by replacing a single memory module with two separate modules. Which of the following would describe this upgrade? Would that be multi-channel, RAID 1, multi-core, ECC, or hyper-threading? Now, we're going to come back to this question in just a moment. Please no answers in the chat room. Please no hints in the chat room. We'll come back to that rewind question in just a bit and talk all about the things that you need to know about that question. Maybe you remember it from last month. In any case, go to professormesser.com/QA. There's the link, and you can lock in your answer. So it's kind of fun. This is plenty of questions. We're going to go through lots of information about the 220 1001 today. First, let me welcome you. Thanks for being here. We wouldn't be able to do these live streams and Q&A unless there was somebody to actually answer the questions that I was asking. So thank you for being here. Of course, don't forget about our YouTube channel. If you'd like to support us without spending any money, you simply have to go to professormesser.com/YouTube and subscribe to our YouTube channel, which makes it very, very easy. You can also go to Twitter, professormesser.com/Twitter, because we have a daily pop quiz question directly from the A+. And then we have the professormesser.com/Instagram, which is the same questions, just prettier. Got pictures to go along with them. Also, sometime in this first hour, I'm going to tell you all about how you can earn a continuing education unit credit just for watching this 1 hour of a webinar category unit. So keep listening for that sometime in this first hour. I'll give you all the details at that point. Today, we're going to talk about the CompTIA A+ exam. Now, this is an exam that was released in January of 2019, and this is one that, if you look at the retirement process that CompTIA usually puts out, they retire these about 3.5 years after they are released. That means the current exam that we are working with right now, the 220 1001 and 220 1002, are estimated to be retired in July of 2022. As we sit here live in July of 2021, that means you have a year before you have to even think about this version of the exam going away. So that gives you plenty of ramp. If you are currently studying for your A+, Keep studying. If you're at the beginning of your studying and you're thinking, should I wait? I never understand why people ask that question, because you should never wait to get your certification, but don't wait. Get your certification done. Start studying right now. Get the certification, put it in your pocket, go get a job. You'll already have a job and be making money from your A+ certification before a new version of the A+ even comes out. That's how important this is. So make sure that you focus on this. There are 2 exams you have to pass, the 220-1001 and 220-1002. Today, we're going to talk about the 1001. On Thursday, 2 days from now, we'll do a live stream for the 1002. For the 1001, you have to score 675 on a scale from 100 to 900. So the scale and the grading is a little odd, but that's the number you have to do. So that's the important part of this. So keep that in mind. Also, not much has changed. If you've been studying the last version, this was 3 years ago, you probably shouldn't be studying from those particular versions. But there were updates. About 20% of the exam is brand new. So make sure all of your study materials specifically are written for the 220-1001 and the 220-1002. Don't use any other study materials unless they have those numbers on them. Very, very important. Also in the chat room, Fabian, thank you for the $4.99 donation. Hey, Professor, you changed my life. Well, you changed mine. So thank you. I'm more than happy to put these out. Go learn what you need to learn. Go get the job. Go change your life. That's what this is all about. So congratulations for doing that. Today, we're going to talk about the 220-1001, which specifically is mobile devices, networking, hardware, virtualization and cloud computing, and hardware and network troubleshooting. Those are the topics we'll discuss today. So we will go through all of that and much more. Also, Anthony in the chat room with another $4.99 donation. Thank you so much. Anthony says, appreciate you, and I appreciate you back. So thank you so much. Speaking of exams, the 220-1001, many of you know that every single video I make for my entire course, every course I do, every video is put on YouTube for free. Every minute of every video. Nothing is held back. Nothing is behind a paywall. You don't have to subscribe. You don't have to give me your email address. You don't have to fill out a form. You just watch the videos. It's that simple. That's our philosophy. That's our motto. That's our mantra. So I do have people, though, that would like to download these. Maybe they would like audio versions. Maybe they would like to use my course notes or my practice exams. Maybe they would like to read through my Exam Hacks ebook. Well, I've just bundled all of this together into one package. So if you'd like to purchase these, take them, download them, put them on all of your local devices so they're with you wherever you happen to go. You can do that with my Success Bundle. Go to ProfessorMesser.com/1001Success. And you can read all about it. There's plenty of information to go through. There's also some free Q&A on my website. Go to the Take 10 questions, 10 questions at a time, ProfessorMesser.com/take10. And I've got A+, Network Plus, Security Plus is there. Plenty to go through. Lots of Q&A. Get you into the mood of what you can expect from these questions that you might get on your exam. This particular study group and all of my study groups are archived on YouTube. You can watch the YouTube videos at any time, and they are categorized on my website. I've also got a podcast version of this, an audio-only podcast version of this at ProfessorMesser.com/podcast. So if you have a podcast listening program, and why don't you? You should already. Start using that podcast program. Download all the tech podcasts. Download all of the topics that interest you. Whenever you open your podcast app, everything has automatically been downloaded for you, including all of my study group replays. Go to ProfessorMesser.com/podcast. Also, for those of you that are watching the live or the replay on YouTube, the YouTube replay has timestamps for all of the questions, answers, and calls that we get. That's because my marketing manager, Lori, is watching this replay. Everybody say hi to Lori. Hey, Lori. She has got my laptop. She is plugging away, really her laptop at this point, plugging away at it and putting in all the timestamps, everything that's there. All the timestamps you see, she has had to listen to this and go through it. But it speeds up things. If you go back and listen to the replay, you may need to jump around and find things. It's a very quick way to do it. And now YouTube puts little chapter markers on the playlist. So that's kind of nice at the bottom of the screen. It helps a little bit on the YouTube side. Thank you, Lori. Everybody in the chat room, look at this. Hi, Lori. Hi, Lori. Hey, Lori. Good morning, Lori. Hi, Lori. Thanks, guys. She watches the replay of the chat, too. So that's pretty awesome. Also, for those of you that are in the mood of actually taking this exam and you've been taking notes on my videos and realizing there's a lot of content in these videos, 137 videos, over 18 hours of content. I've already made content for you. I've already written these notes for you. They're on my website at professormester.com/1001 notes. Plenty to see with the notes. They're all the graphics, all the text, all my charts. They're all in there. So you don't have to write anything. You don't have to keep up with my talking or slow things down or pause it. They're all there. Plus, it makes a great study guide after you've gone through your book, after you've gone through the videos. professormester.com/1001 notes. Once you're ready to take your exam, you have to purchase the exam. And don't pay full price for that exam purchase either. You want to get a voucher that's already been discounted so that you're not paying the full price. If you are in North America, that would be Canada, US, Mexico, or in Puerto Rico or Guam, you can purchase your voucher from my site at a discount. You don't need a discount code. You don't need a coupon. You don't need to load up one of those crazy extensions in your browser in the hopes that you would be able to find some type of discount. It's already built in. We make this easy. Everybody gets the same low price. Go to professormester.com/vouchers. And just to give you a little bit extra, for those of you that have always been asking, how can I purchase your Exam Hacks ebook? I don't sell my Exam Hacks ebook. You can't purchase it, but if you purchase a voucher, I'll give it to you for free. How about that? So go to professormester.com/vouchers, get your voucher, don't pay full price, get the discount without having to hunt around for a coupon, and get my Exam Hacks ebook for free, which will give you some life hacks that you can use while you're in the exam, maybe get you a couple extra points on that exam as you go through it. Something that can really, really help. So you are absolutely helping support us if you get the voucher through me. This is something that all goes back to keeping the website up and running. So I appreciate your ongoing support. A number of you have already, we're up to almost 1,000 people have gotten their vouchers. So please consider doing that. These are new vouchers. They're 12-month vouchers. So you can purchase it now and take it anytime in the next 12 months. All the details and specifics of terms and conditions are on that page, professormester.com/vouchers. Okay, enough of me talking so much. Let's do some Q&A. We had that question I asked earlier, which was a system administrator has upgraded a system by replacing a single memory module with 2 separate modules. Which of the following would describe this upgrade? Would it be multi-channel, RAID 1, multi-core, ECC, or hyper-threading? Let's click this and see how we did. The results say 85% of you say, well, that's multi-channel. That's a pretty strong percentage, I would say. Single digits for everything else. At 9% is multi-core. Well, it has multi in it, so that's close. And then a 3-way tie for third between RAID 1, ECC, and hyper-threading with 2 and 3% a piece for each one of those. So this is one where if you are in the place where you're trying to make your system go faster, you want to optimize the components of your system, you will want to consider looking at the memory, because the primary or the most amount of data that goes back and forth inside of your computer is between your CPU and the memory. And if you can optimize that particular conversation, then you can make your system go as quickly as possible. So this is something called multi-channel memory. Instead of having one memory module, have 2 or even 3 separate memory modules, and you can effectively share the bandwidth or share the load of the bus across all 3 of those, so that you're able to make the system go as fast as possible. You may find a significant performance increase if you have a motherboard that supports multi-channel memory and you're not using multi-channel, and suddenly you put in an extra memory module. It's amazing how much faster your system will go. There's usually these module slots that are colored differently so that you know which ones are duplicated. So you would fill in the red, you would fill in the black, and you have the multi-channel configuration. So you have to, on this one, it's dual channel. You would have to have those 2 installed simultaneously to take advantage of that efficient memory setup, which means multi-channel is the right answer. Those of you, the 85% of you, fooled nobody with this one, that said multi-channel. That's exactly what we're talking about. And the 85% of you got that one absolutely correct. That's how you do it. And that's a pretty important piece of this. The CPU we tend to focus on. Sometimes we don't spend enough time thinking about the memory. and thinking about that communication between the CPU and the memory. It's a core critical piece of your system. Make sure that everything is optimized. I just had an optimization issue on a system I was putting together where I put the video adapter card in the wrong PCI Express slot because some PCI Express slots are shared with others. These are things you have to think about when putting your system together, and that multi-channel memory is another one of those that you do have to keep in mind. So now let's do some new questions. That was a question from last month. I think maybe a number of you remembered that one. But as many of you know, if you've taken one of these exams before, the questions you get on your exam are not all multiple choice. Some of them are what CompTIA calls performance-based questions. Performance-based questions are questions that are anything but multiple choice. They could be a matching question, a fill in the blank. Maybe they put you at a command prompt and ask you to perform a function. Maybe you're at a Windows screen and you have to drag and drop some things around. Maybe it's a problem that you have to solve and they put you on a screen and you have to solve the problem. It's the same material you've been studying. It comes directly from the exam objectives, but it's just not a multiple choice question. So for our first new question of the month, I have a performance-based question for you. This is a sorting question. So let's see how you do with this sorting question that asks, sort these technologies from lowest throughput to highest. And I have 5 different technologies here for you to sort. So for those of you listening in on the podcast side, listen very carefully. The first is one stream of 802.11n. The next is SATA revision 2.0. Then we have Thunderbolt v3, 100 base T, and USB 3.0. And I want you to sort these technologies from lowest throughput to highest. Those technologies, again, are one stream of 802.11n, SATA revision 2.0, Thunderbolt v3, 100 base T, and USB 3.0. And there's a little interesting piece in there. We're going to talk about this question in just a bit. If you think you know the answer, please don't answer in the chat room. You want to instead go to that link that's at the bottom of your screen, professormesser.com/QA, and lock in your answer. This is, it would be good if I was able to do that. Thank you, chat room, for reminding me to do my job. There we go. Now you can put it into Socrative. Thank you. Ed's like, could you please do that, please? Just click the button on your side. That would be nice. Haven't done this in a couple weeks. Not sure if some of you have noticed at this point. So you will be able to answer in Socrative now. It's a fill in the blank question. Just put them in the order. If you think they're already in order, just type in A, B, C, D, E, and that's the order. You don't have to type in all the words of the things that are there. You just have to type them in and get them going. So that's true. Folks in the chat room. Oh, in Jacksonville. Some folks in the chat room are in Jacksonville. You're going to get more of the storm than I am, I think, here in Tallahassee. So I think you're going to have a wet couple days of this, maybe just a day. It looks like it's moving pretty quick. Some of these storms, when they come through, just sit on top of you and they just put a lot of rain. This one's just going to go in a day and it'll be gone. So we're doing this live stream today. Tomorrow, a tropical storm will go through, and Thursday we'll have another live stream, assuming that all of the network connections are still working. I'll keep checking my Twitter, keep checking my Discord. I didn't even talk about my Discord. Make sure if you go to my website, you click the Discord link or go to professormesser.com/Discord. So that will help you too. If you're ever in a place where you are trying to figure that out and going, what can I do? Where can I chat with folks? Well, our Discord is certainly busy. So that's a great way to do it. Hopefully that will help you as well. When I go through this also, and I've been looking at all of this, these questions as they go through are pretty important. You could very possibly get a question dealing with feeds and speeds. So knowing those feeds and speeds is a pretty important one to do. When I say one stream, that means one stream of 802.11n. Duplex, I don't know. I'm not going to give you any hints on that one. And you kind of have to think about wireless. And is 802.11n, is that wireless? Is wireless full duplex or half duplex? All the questions. Yeah, some of you were with us during the tropical storm when the lights went off. Sometimes that happens. So we'll see how it goes for this. Let's see how you did with this one. Let's step through each one of these. The question was, sort these technologies from lowest throughput to highest. We have one stream of 802.11n. We have SATA revision 2.0, Thunderbolt V3, 100 base T, which you really don't see, by the way. I should have put an X after that. I don't know if anybody caught that. And then USB 3.0. You would catch it if we were doing the Network Plus study group. That's it. So let's go through each one of these. And the question was lowest throughput to highest. So let's do our lowest throughput in that list. And I believe the lowest throughput, almost a giveaway on the speed itself, 100 base T. Technically, there is a 100 base T specification, but you're never going to see that anywhere. The specification you tend to see at 100 megabit is 100 base TX. Although you will find most of us, like I just did on this one, we sometimes forget to put the X down. So you will see just as many people referencing 100 base T as you see them referencing 100 base TX. And in reality, they're really meaning the same thing. So that's for those of you, I look forward to your cards and letters. But 100 base TX is fast Ethernet, not so fast anymore, but it ran or runs. If you have one running right now, I have a few 100 base TX connections, and those are 100 megabits per second. That's not a good abbreviation either. I'm noticing all my typos now. 100 megabits per second. No, it should be mbit/sec. You know what I meant, though. It's 100 megabits per second. Look at me. Don't look at the screen. Just stick with me, and we're going to be fine. Next on our list, then, next level up, the next higher, fastest speed of technology is one stream of 802.11n. As many of you are familiar, these latest wireless technologies can send multiple streams simultaneously over the same frequency. It's crazy. With MIMO and multi-user MIMO, fantastic technology, speeds things up dramatically. And one stream of 802.11n, one radio, one antenna on 802.11n is 150 megabits per second at its theoretical maximum. Wireless is so difficult to hit that theoretical max, but that's the number we have to go with. So that's the one we are definitely going to have there. Let's do another next on our list. The next higher, the next fastest, I say higher, it's really fastest. Next fastest one on this list is B. SATA Revision 2.0 operates at 3 gigabits per second. So that is the next one on our list. That's quite a jump, by the way, to go to 150 megabits per second to 3 gigabits per second. Did I just use the wrong abbreviations all the way through this? Absolutely did. Just don't do what I do. This is one of those where I really need to go back and fix all of this, but it's too late now. We're live, everybody. SATA Revision 2.0 definitely, though, runs at 3 gigabits per second. That means the next two on our list run faster than 3 gig a second, which means the next on our list is USB 3.0, which runs at 5 gig a second. It is a fast technology. That's why we always say that you should try to run these with the fastest, most available technologies. If you're running USB and you're doing a backup or a file transfer, try to use USB 3.0 at a minimum. There's faster ones too to be able to have that there. USB 3.0 operates at 5 gigabit per second, not 5 gigabits per second. So there we go. Yeah, the S is a plural. That's all. That's what I was thinking when I was doing this. I was not drinking enough coffee, apparently, when I was doing this. And the last one is the only one left. Thunderbolt version 3, hello, 40 gigabits per second. That is a fast technology. That's why I connect and use Thunderbolt in my studio, because I have to record things onto video and edit onto video. And using that Thunderbolt, I don't even have to copy files. I record my videos directly to SSD, and then I edit from that SSD on the same Thunderbolt connection, all external to my system. It is amazing that you're able to do that. And Thunderbolt V3 running at 40 gigabits per second is what allows me to do that with my 4K videos. Very useful. Thunderbolt is a signal. Thunderbolt is a type of communication that is used. USB-C is a type of connector. And with USB-C, we could put many type of signals over USB-C. We could put Thunderbolt. We could put USB. We could put video signals like mini DisplayPort or DisplayPort type signals we can use over USB-C. So Thunderbolt, extremely useful to have just one of the type of signals you might run over a USB-C connector to have there. So hopefully that is our answer for those of you listening. The lowest tech throughput was 100 base T at 100 megabits per second. One stream of 802.11n is 150 megabits per second. SATA Revision 2.0 is 3 gig per second. USB 3.0 is 5 gig per second. And then Thunderbolt V3 is 40 gig per second. That is our performance-based question of the month. Hopefully, you now got some of those right. And as many of you were asking in the chat room, if this was on the test and you got 3 out of 5, you got some of these out of 5, do you get partial credit? CompTIA says in their frequently asked questions on their website, maybe. Maybe they will give you partial credit, or maybe they won't. They've definitively told us that sometimes, yes, they could. So at least there's an option. I would think a question like this that lends itself to providing partial credit, that they would. But the reality is that not only don't we know, there's no way to tell if they will or not, because there's no way to figure out how many points each question is worth. They don't tell you at the end. Just do the best you can, and you'll do fine. That's the real key, is knowing where to go from there. All right, that's our performance-based question of the month. Let's skip back to a multiple choice-based question. That might help some of us to have this here. Our multiple choice-based question on this list is this question right here that asks, which of the following would be most likely used in a warehouse for tracking and locating pallets of inventory? Would that be Bluetooth, 802.11, RFID, Zigbee, or NFC? Which of the following would be the most likely used in a warehouse for tracking and locating pallets of inventory? Is it Bluetooth, 802.11, RFID, Zigbee, or NFC? If you think you know the answer, please know answers in the chat room. We want to go to professormesser.com/QA and lock in your answer. Go to professormesser.com/QA. It's that link right there on the bottom of the screen. We will figure it out as we go through this. I think that most of us, when we're trying to figure out these technologies, they certainly have quite a bit that we have to know. And all 5 of those technologies that I listed in this question are all from the CompTIA exam objectives. So question in the chat room, why does CompTIA put stuff that's not in the objectives on their tests? They don't tend to do that. In fact, you will find on their exams that most people who are taking these exams and going through them, they find that almost everything on the exam comes right from the exam objectives. That's how close they stay to these objectives. Very rarely would you find a particular question or technology that is not in the objectives. And if that's the case, one of the things that you can do is remember that, and you'll find that what CompTIA will do is they will give you the question, but they won't grade it. They're doing it to test other pieces of this and figure out the objective. So hopefully this will be something that you can work through as well as we go through all of this. Always, of course, please know hints in the chat room. Please know answers in the chat room. We'll figure this out as we go along. Let's see how we did. A number of you have locked in your answers, so let's see if we can find the answer to this one, which asked, which of the following would be most likely used in a warehouse for tracking and locating pallets of inventory? Would that be Bluetooth, 802.11, RFID, Zigbee, or NFC? How did we answer? 77% of you say it's RFID. We have 7% of you that said 802.11, 7% of you said Zigbee, and then 9% of you said NFC. And then 0% of you said Bluetooth. Wow, that's got nobody hitting on Bluetooth. Everybody, for the most part, has said RFID is what you would use in a warehouse to be able to do this. And RFID, especially for tracking pallets as they are going by, that is certainly one of those situations because it is used so many places. RFID is, we put RFID tags in our pets. There's always that dumb story on the news every year where they talk about a company that is putting RFID chips into people, except nobody's doing this. And they're only doing it because they want you to watch their article or read their article, watch their bit on television. It's one of those things where they also want us to eat weird things. Here's the weird things people are eating. Here's the people that are putting RFID inside of themselves. Nobody's doing that. And nobody will do that because it solves a problem nobody has in this particular case. RFID, though, it is super small. That is a grain of rice. And the RFID tag, the type that's here, very, very small to fit into somebody. They can also go inside of the cards that we use, like our access cards, or inside of our credit cards. That's the type of RFID tag that would fit inside of those cards as well. RFID, the radio frequency identification for that. This is one of those that I think is an important technology. You find it almost everywhere to be able to work with this. And being able to track and locate, most specifically locate pallets of inventory, the only possible option here is RFID. That's the one that you would go with, RFID. The other technologies would not really help you very much. Your pallets of inventory don't have any 802.11 technology on them. There's certainly no Zigbee, which is used for our Internet of Things devices. NFC is a type of RFID derivative, if you will, but it's really short range and primarily used for our mobile devices, not in something like a warehouse. And then you got Bluetooth, which apparently everybody knows, not really the case. So that's why RFID, the 77% of you chose RFID. You were spot on with this one. That is what we would do in a warehouse, is use that RFID. If you need more information on this one, this comes directly from, can't even see it because it's here. There we go. Our wireless network technologies section 2.4 on our 220-1001 course. You can always go back to that and learn more about RFID. Let's do another question. I've got more here. Let's queue up another one. And this question asks, which of the following custom computer systems would require the most amount of memory? Would it be a thin client? Would it be graphics editing? Would it be network attached storage? Would it be a thick client? Or would it be a virtualization workstation? Which of the following custom computer systems would require the most amount of memory? Thin client, graphics editing, network attached storage, thick client, or virtualization workstation. You've got 5 options. Lock it in at professormesser.com/QA and see if you can figure out which one we're looking for here. Now, I know I left out a few on this one too intentionally. I'm trying to focus you down, and this is when we're going to have to maybe break it down, maybe the top 3, and maybe get rid of 2 of those and see what's left. And this is very common to see with the CompTIA exams, to be able to have that happen. I think this is, I have the same problem. So people in the chat room are saying, we're trying to figure this out. No hints in the chat room. You have to figure it out based on the question. The question is the question. I'm not going to give you any clarification as to what I mean by which of the following custom computer systems would require the most amount of memory. It is very self-apparent, I think. I think it's very clear what it happens to be. We'll have to figure out what it is. Yes, the most questions, the best questions, the first questions, those are challenging questions for a reason. So this is one of those cases. And you have to know which would be the most amount of memory on this one. Fortunately, this one doesn't have quite the same challenge as some of the others might. We'll have to see if it really does turn out to be what we think it is. Let's see if we can answer this one. The question again asks, which of the following custom computer systems require the most amount of memory? Is it a thin client, graphics editing, network attached storage, thick client, or virtualization workstation? How did we do with this one? 50% right down the middle said a virtualization workstation, but 37% said graphics editing. That's a very close second place. And then everything drops off for third place, which is network attached storage 6%, thick client at 5%, thin client at 2%. So it's got to be one of those, right? It has to be a virtualization workstation or graphics editing. And in my mind, if we're talking about memory, then you're talking about random access memory. We're not talking about storage. We're not talking about an SSD. We're not talking about a hard drive. We're not talking about main storage of a system. We're talking about memory. And if you see anyone talking about memory, then we really are talking about the amount of random access memory in a system. And if that's the particular problem we're trying to work through, then we're talking about a virtualization workstation by far, by the way. In fact, I would say virtualization workstation probably needs more SSD and hard drive space as well than almost any of those other options, network attached storage being the big difference there. But the one that really was a challenge for everybody was graphics editing and virtualization workstation. Why wouldn't graphics editing? Well, we'll talk about why in a moment. Graphics editing would not work on this. But a virtualization workstation needs an incredible amount of memory because you're not just running your operating system on this, you're running more operating systems at the same time on this particular computer. So you need to make sure you have plenty of memory and along the same lines, plenty of CPU cycles available as well. That's why. So that's why it's important, of course, to be able to have plenty of RAM in your system. You're going to need it if you've got multiple virtual machines running at the same time, like I do with my Oracle VM Virtualization Manager that you see right there. So what if we wanted to run, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 operating systems that I could run at the same time on this computer. Imagine having seven computers put right next to each other. How much memory would you need? You would need a lot. So that's why, I mean, maybe running one VM, you can get away with maybe not adding a lot of memory. What about the next one and the next one and the next one? So virtualization uses tons of resources, and that's why in this case, a virtualization device, like a virtualization workstation, would require the most amount of memory compared to any of these others. Now, why wouldn't graphics editing be one of these? Well, for one reason, a graphics editor does not require huge amounts of memory. We sometimes think that it does, but it really doesn't. It uses about the same amount as a couple of word processing documents, spreadsheets sort of put together. It's more of a beefier office application, if you will. They're actually developed and work extremely well with low memory systems. The graphics editing doesn't use quite as much resources on the memory side as you might expect, but certainly it uses memory, but nothing close to what a virtualization workstation would use. Not even close. So that's why it's pretty important to have the most amount of memory running on that VM device. We have, of course, network attached storage, which needs a lot of storage device. It needs lots of hard drives, it needs lots of SSD or whatever you're using for storage, but it does not require a lot of memory. In fact, I have a NAS that's in my studio here. I think I've got about 30 terabytes of storage on that particular unit, and I think it has 2 gig of memory in it. Doesn't have much memory in it at all. It doesn't have to, because all it's doing is simply serving files. There's nothing else to it. A thick client is the computer that you carry around. It's your laptop, it's your desktop computer. That certainly is not going to need the most amount of memory. And a thin client barely has any resources on it, so the 2% of you definitely deserves to come in last place, doesn't it? The thin client. In this case, the only thing that does make sense, virtualization workstation by far uses the most amount of memory that you would ever need. 52% of you got that one absolutely right. Well done with that. Well, as you can see, as we're going through these questions, there are a lot of various and sundry questions on here. They skip around. The exam is very broad in the type of topics that they provide. And that's why I felt it was important that if you're planning to go take an exam, that you test yourself to see if you're really ready to take the exam. One of the challenges you're going to find, though, is that it's hard to find very good quality questions. It's hard to find questions that have been originally written, that have been written in the same style as the CompTIA exam, and that are giving you the feedback you need to understand why the question was right and why the question was wrong. And because I really was not finding a set of practice exam questions that I felt was very good, I wrote some myself. And this is my Core 1 Practice Exams book, 370 pages long, 3 90-question exams. Every exam in here includes 5 performance-based questions and 85 multiple-choice-based questions. So I wrote this with the idea that you could test yourself, that you could try to prep yourself for going into an exam. And I think that's an important thing to consider. In fact, I have a question from my exam book right here. So here's my first question on my practice exam book is A6. The question asks, the printer in the accounting department has stopped all printing processes. The print queue shows that there are 7 jobs in the queue that are waiting to be printed. Which of the following would be the best next troubleshooting step? Would it be to send a test job to the printer and move it to the top of the queue? Would it be to restart the printer's spooler? Would it be to install an updated version of the printer driver? Or would it be to delete everything in the queue and resend the print jobs? Now, if you just want the answer, you can simply click Quick Answer. I'm going to click the details, which is actually on page 39, but instead of scrolling through to page 39, I put links in the book. So all you have to do is click the details, and it takes you to page 39, where it gives you the question again, and then explains to you that the answer is B, restart the printer's spooler. And very important, for every answer I give, I tell you why that is the right answer. So I explain to you why the thought processes should be to get you to this particular answer. But of course, if I'm taking this, I got it wrong. So one of the things that I do is I tell you what the incorrect answers were, and then I explain why every single one of these incorrect answers was incorrect. I don't just bundle it all up into one answer, one single paragraph. I go through each one of these and explain why was answer A not the right answer? Why was answer C not the right answer? Why was answer D not the right answer? And then when you're done with that, if you still need a little more help, I've got links here that will take you directly to my website by clicking on it, or you can use the QR code with your mobile device if you have the printed book, because this does come in a printed version. So you can use the QR codes that are in the book to pair with your mobile device and be able to do that. For example, I will click if you click the ProfessorMaster link, it takes you to the actual video on troubleshooting printers. So nice and easy to do. And then there's a back button in my PDF reader. And if I click that back button, it takes me to where I was, and I can just go to the next question. And you can keep stepping through them. It's all in my practice exams book. You can find out more information about those directly from my website, or go to professormester.com/core1pe. It's another great way to support the site. And if you purchase it with my course notes and bundle them together, you get a bit of a discount. So I try to build that in with all of those. Hopefully that can help you as you're planning to take your exam and wondering, am I ready to go into that exam room? This will answer that question for you. Let's do some more Q&A. I've got another question for you. This question, if I flip it to your side, there we go. A company is using pre-built modules on a cloud service provider to create a custom inventory application. Which of the following would best describe this implementation? Would it be IaaS, peer-to-peer, SaaS, hybrid, or PaaS? It's got to be one of those, right? So hopefully that's one you'll know. IaaS, peer-to-peer, SaaS, hybrid, or PaaS. If you think you know the answer, please no answers in the chat room. You want to go to professormesser.com/QA and lock in your answer. Hopefully that will be one that's familiar. Maybe you know this one. Maybe you've heard these terms. They're all terms you should know from the exam. See if you happen to know. It's hard to see because my big head's in the way of that question and the answer. Wonder if I can make this a little bigger. Nope, wrong page. Let's try this. Nope, that doesn't help either. Maybe smaller. I guess we can do a little bit smaller, but now we can't see anything. Fantastic. See how you do with this one. A company is using pre-built modules on a cloud service provider to create a custom inventory application. Which of the following would best describe this implementation? Is it IaaS, peer-to-peer, SaaS, hybrid, or PaaS? It's got to be one of those, right? It's got to be one. Just take a stab at it. That's always a good tip, by the way, on your exam. Never leave a question blank. Always answer the questions. You don't get any points if you leave it blank. You don't get any points if you get it wrong. but you do get points if you happen to guess correctly. So always go with the odds. Just take a guess if you don't know. That at least you've got something in there. And in this particular case, you've got a 1 out of 5 chance, 20% chance of getting it right. Sometimes you can get some extra points that way. Very useful to have that there. Lock in your answer at professormesser.com/QA, and you'll be able to see if you get this right. A lot of you are trying to figure this one out. Cloud computing is a weird thing. Cloud computing has not been well described in the industry. It is a remarkable set of technologies. Some people try to simplify it and say it's just a server. That's all cloud computing is. It's just a server. It's actually so much more than that. And that's why I think a number of us are challenged with these pieces. I know it's kind of hard to see, but if you go to professormesser.com/QA, you'd see the question anyway. And so that's why I'm kind of going with that for all of those. Kind of hard to fit them all on the screen. You'll do okay. We'll figure out the details with all of this. Let's see how you did with this one. The question again asked, a company is using pre-built modules and a cloud service provider to create a custom inventory application. Which of the following would best describe this implementation? Is it IaaS? Is it peer-to-peer? Is it SaaS? Is it hybrid? Or is it PaaS? Which would it be? Let's show the results. And 53% of you say it is PaaS. 23% of you say it's SaaS, SaaS. 17% say it's IaaS. And then it drops down to single digits. Hybrid 4%, peer-to-peer 2%. So what would we use? If we were building our own application, we were building it on a cloud service provider that provides us pre-built modules, then we are working with platform as a service. This is one where we need a cloud-based application. We can't find one that's already written out there anywhere. We need to build an application ourselves, but we don't want to write it from scratch. Wouldn't it be nice if we could find a provider that gives us all the building blocks we need to build an app without having to build it from the ground up? That would be fantastic. And that is the platform that the cloud provider is giving us, is a platform for developing these apps. And that's platform as a service. The building blocks is what I'm hoping you keep in your mind, because that's really what platform as a service is a set of building blocks. So you can put together all of the application that you need. Maybe you need all of the blocks. Maybe you just need half of the blocks. You put together which ones would be there, and you'd be able to build your own app, make it all work with platform as a service. That is what we were looking for. So anytime you see someone building their own apps, they're using pre-built modules, they are putting together their own custom application, it's platform as a service. That's what you should go with every single time. And indeed, 54% of you thought that as well, platform as a service. Now we have other options people chose. 23% of you said software as a service. Software as a service is something that is already written for us. We don't have to develop it. We don't have to write it. We don't have to program it. There's no pre-built modules. If you have a web-based email service you use, I use Gmail, I use Yahoo Mail, I use Outlook.com. There's all these different web-based services. I didn't program those. I didn't have to build them or configure them with a login screen and a screen to write an email and a screen to read the email. It was all done for me. All I did was log in and the whole application was there. That's what software as a service is. And then lastly, we have infrastructure as a service, sometimes called hardware as a service, which commonly just gives you all of the hardware you would need. It gives you the network connection, the CPU, the memory, the storage, and it's up to you to load everything else. Sometimes IaaS might include an operating system, but sometimes it doesn't. But I guess you could lump in and maybe an OS. Maybe they throw an OS in with IaaS, with infrastructure as a service, if your definition of the infrastructure includes the operating system. For my particular case, if you're on professormesser.com, I use IaaS for that. I purchase and use a cloud-based server. And when I was building it, they said, well, here's your server. We can load other stuff on it if you want to. And so I loaded up the operating system I needed. But then it was up to me to load everything else. I had to load my whole website. I had to load everything that I use for content management. I had to load the membership software that you use whenever you purchase products from me. It's all there. So IaaS, fantastic to use if you're building it from the ground up. That's what you should think of for IaaS. The answer here, platform as a service, 54% of you got that one absolutely right. Now, if you are watching this video for continuing education unit credit, one of the things you can do is go to the top or the bottom of the Professor Messer website. There is a Contact Us link. Click that Contact Us link, and it will bring up a form. And in that form, you can put your name, your email address. In the subject line, please put the July Core 1 study group. And then in the message block on a line by itself, put the super secret code word of the month, peer-to-peer. Kind of did that differently this time, didn't I? Peer-to-peer is the super secret code word of the month. And then, of course, you can put anything else you would like in that message, because I do read through every single one of these. But this is one where you would at least be able to submit that. In about a week, I go through these. I send you back an email that has been digitally signed that says this is your certification, that you watched an hour of a webinar category CEU. Here you go. Now, do you need that email from me? You really don't, but I like to give that in case you are audited. They go through all of this, and then you, of course, got a way to prove that you were here. And in fact, they can prove it because it's digitally signed. They know that you didn't change it from 1 hour to 10 hours, I guess. Can't even use 10 hours when you renew your certification. So for those of you that are still collecting CEUs, that might help you as well. The Contact Us link, send it over to me. Super secret code word of the month is peer-to-peer. If you do not follow those steps, then you will not be able to receive the email, because it's an automated process that relies on you following those steps. And in fact, that's sort of part of this is I know you must have listened and watched to know that those are the steps. See how that works? So pretty useful to have that there. Hopefully that can help you as you go through all of this. Let's do another question. We've got time. So here's a question that asks, a user has just received a new laptop. Good for them. But the display appears fuzzy and not as sharp as an external LCD monitor. Which of the following would be the most likely cause of this issue? Would it be an incorrect resolution, a bad inverter, an incorrect BIOS configuration, fast startup is enabled, or a bad video cable? So a user has just received a new laptop, but the display appears fuzzy and not as sharp as an external LCD monitor. Which of the following would be the most likely cause of this issue? Is it an incorrect resolution, bad inverter, incorrect BIOS configuration, fast startup is enabled, or a bad video cable? If you think you know the answer, go to professormesser.com/QA and lock in your answer. It's got to be one of those, right? We have to be able to figure out what those are. If you ever gotten a new one with this, if you're ever working through new laptops and moving over content and plugging things in and making everything work, then you know what a challenge it can be to get all of that working. So let's see if you think you know what it is that is causing this. It's really got I got a lot of things on the screen here. Let's see if we can make it just a little bit smaller. I know it makes it a little bit smaller on the screen, but hopefully you'll be able to read it a little bit better. Oh, we're running at 1080p, right? So if you're not seeing it at 1080p, hit that little cog wheel at the bottom and you can up the graphics level a little bit, because I send 1080p and you should be able to see it at 1080p. That might help you as well. This one you might run into if you get a new laptop or somebody in your organization gets a new laptop. They might complain about this problem. You need to be ready. And this, of course, comes directly from the CompTIA exam objectives as well. So even if you don't have a new laptop and people don't have a new laptop, you still might get it on the exam, which is probably the more important reason to know this question, having all of that there. Let's see how we did, though. Well, I think a number of you have locked in your answers now. And so let's see how we did the question again. A user has just received a new laptop, but the display appears fuzzy, not as sharp as an external LCD monitor. Which of the following would be the most likely cause of this issue? Is it an incorrect resolution, a bad inverter, an incorrect BIOS configuration, fast startup is enabled, or a bad video cable? And if we look at the results, 80% of you, 80, say it is an incorrect resolution. 12% of you say it's a bad inverter. 8% of you said a bad video cable. Bad cable. Only 1% said incorrect BIOS configuration, and 0% said the fast startup is enabled. Fast startup probably is enabled anyway, but that's not what's causing our problem. We have some type of image issue. The image quality on this is our biggest issue. So we need to figure out what's going on. Sometimes it is the patterns on the screen because we have a bad cable or a cable that's missing pins. Although with HDMI these days, it's not an enormous problem. Normally with HDMI, you can really see crushed pins in there pretty easily. The connectors on there are so delicate. But one of the problems that you most commonly run into, especially with LCDs, is that a lot of these LCD monitors can run at different resolutions. They can change the format of what they're showing on the screen, but only one resolution is really going to be the clearest one. And that one resolution we call the native resolution, because that native resolution is exactly a 1-to-1 pixel relationship to the manufacturer of the LCD panel. So if you can set the resolution on your operating system to match the native resolution of your monitor, you will get perfect, crystal clear video. Ideally, most of the time. If it's a good monitor, you'll get crystal clear. If you change the resolution on your operating system to be something different than the native resolution of the monitor has to readjust to fit everything on the screen. And sometimes that blows things up a little bit. Sometimes it makes things a little smaller, and it's not a perfect fit. And so it's a little bit fuzzy sometimes. It's not as clear when you're looking at it on the screen. I've had people that said, I've been running this way for a year. I just changed the resolution to match the monitor, and now suddenly everything's great. So that's one of those situations where running the correct resolution can have a huge difference on the quality of what you're viewing. And in fact, here, this is exactly the problem, is that it is the incorrect resolution, and you already knew that. 80% of you chose that as your answer. A bad inverter, we don't commonly see these on our LED-based LCD monitors anymore, but our older CFL, the cold fluorescent tube type technology that you would see, those certainly use inverters. If the inverter is bad, you don't get any signal on the screen. You don't get any light going through it, so you don't see anything. It's almost like a black screen, but if you look really close, you can sort of see what's going on the LCD panel. That's why we often say on those older LCD displays, use a flashlight, flash it, put it right on the screen, see if you can see anything happening in case one of those inverters happen to fail. You would know that that's why you weren't seeing light pass through the LCD display. 8% of you said a bad video cable, and a bad video cable could possibly cause a fuzzy and not as sharp view. If you were using something like VGA, if you were using an analog video signal, that's possible, but certainly not exactly the description of what we're seeing here, because it's our internal display that's the problem. So running VGA is not really the option. So that would not be your option there. If it was a bad video cable, your LCD, your external LCD would have been a problem. And in this case, the external LCD was great. Looked fantastic. We've got 1% of you said incorrect BIOS configuration. The BIOS does not determine what resolution your operating system will output as, so that's not the issue. And then fast startup, certainly an important and useful technology in Windows to get things started up very, very quickly instead of going through the entire boot process. But fast startup is not our problem either. Nobody thought it was. 0% of you chose that one. The only one that makes sense here, the best option, is incorrect resolution, option A. That is the right answer. So hopefully you got that one right in this list. Well, I know we're at the top of the hour. Let's do one more, because I've got I've got a question here I think we should go through to figure out the details of this. Hopefully, this is one that you are familiar with. Let's see how you do with this. This came up yesterday in a conversation, and I just coincidentally, it is in the study group today. The question asks, 4 business associates are connecting to the internet using the wireless connection of a single mobile phone. Which of the following would describe this connection type? Would it be tethering, lightning, USB hub, hotspot, or Thunderbolt? 4 business associates are connecting to the internet using the wireless connection of a single mobile phone. Which of the following would describe this connection type? Is it tethering, lightning, USB hub, hotspot, or Thunderbolt? If you think you know the answer, go to ProfessorMesser.com/QA and lock in your answer. See if you know what it is. Hopefully, you know what it is. Although, I will say in the conversation that I saw yesterday about this topic, this is not a universally known thing to be able to have this. So hopefully this is one that you can step through and understand a little bit better as we go through these. This is one I think that if you were ever in the situation where you needed this technology, it's incredibly useful. I used to travel as part of my job. I would go into go to the airport on Monday. I'd fly around the country and come back home on a Friday. So whenever I start working through all of these and trying to figure out, is this a technology I can use? This is a technology I used all the time, constantly with this one. So hopefully this is one that you have used. And you know the differences in all of these 5 technologies as well, which are similar to what we are working through. So hopefully it's one you're familiar with as we go through this. Let's see how you did on this question that asked, 4 business associates are connecting to the internet using the wireless connection of a single mobile phone. Which of the following would describe this connection type? Would it be tethering, lightning, USB hub, hotspot, or Thunderbolt? And if we see how you answered, you can see that 83% of you said hotspot is what you would choose. But is it really? Because 18% of you said tethering, and 0% said all the others. So in the conversation I was having, I think it was yesterday with some folks about this question, they were really going back and forth over when do you call it tethering and when do you call it Thunderbolt? And so we need to talk about that a little bit to figure out what this is. First, let's answer this question. We have 4 people connecting to the internet through one phone. That is, at its most common usage, a hotspot. That is when that one device, usually a phone or a purpose-built device, is designed to be a gateway to the internet that people could connect to this. Not all phones allow you to do this. You have to check with your provider. Sometimes it costs extra for you to be able to do this. But if you had to figure out, if you had to compare hotspot versus tethering, what would the difference be in these? We didn't used to have this hotspot functionality with our phones. We used to only have the ability to maybe even connect wired between our laptop and our mobile phone. We would have a cable, we would plug it into our phone, and that would give us connection to the internet. But only for our one device, only for the one laptop we're plugging in. That is in the most basic terms, tethering, because you are tethered to the phone. In that particular example, you are tethered using a physical cable to do that. I think when most people are doing tethering these days, tethering is not with a cable commonly. Usually tethering is using Bluetooth, but it's the same idea. It's one device connecting to your mobile phone or to that remote access device, and then that one device is then able to access the internet. So the tethering is what we would see if it was one user connecting through one device to be able to access the internet. That's what we would say. Now, if you were multiple people using this particular mobile phone to gain access to the internet, usually that phone advertises itself with an SSID, just like an access point. that would be a hotspot. So that's how we determine the differences really between tethering and hotspot. Tethering, single user use using a cable or Bluetooth, and hotspot very commonly is used for multiple users simultaneously, usually connecting to the internet over 802.11 and using your phone as an access point. So 83% of you were pretty spot on with that and being able to work through those pieces. I think that's a good place to start. I think 83% of you did pretty darn well at finding the answer to that. Let's finish on a high note, shall we? At least with our Q&A. But we got plenty more questions to come. So don't worry. I've got plenty more that we are working through. And in fact, all the questions we've gone through even today are all available from the CompTIA website. ProfessorMesser.com/objectives has a link that will take you over there so that you can download the CompTIA exam objectives where all this information was. Make sure you do that. This is a very valuable document. It's free to download from CompTIA. There is a remarkable amount of information that is in there. Make sure you're familiar with it. We have one of these study groups that we do every month. We actually do multiple study groups in a month. For example, on Thursday is our 1002 Core 2 A+ study group. And then next week on Wednesday is Network Plus, and the week after that on Wednesday is Security Plus. But all of that is on my website at ProfessorMesser.com/calendar. You can find out exactly when the next live event is going to be. And for those of you that are watching this and wondering, I'll just come back on the 8th in 2 days on Thursday, make sure you keep checking back on my website because we do have a hurricane or tropical storms coming through. So I never know if our cable modem infrastructure will still be running after these windy storms come through. So make sure you keep checking back. If I have to change that date, that's where I will change it, ProfessorMesser.com/calendar. So you'll be able to see what that does. It's useful to have there. Well, our original part of this where I ask you questions is over, but that's okay. We're not done. I want to take your questions from the chat room. I want to take your questions from the phone lines. I will do all of that set up. You will have it all in the after show. Stick around for that in just a few minutes. We will do all of this. If you have a question about A+, you have a question about technology, you have a question about getting a job, you have a question to know, what am I playing on Xbox right now? That's the time to ask it in the after show. Don't forget about the practice exams or the course notes at ProfessorMesser.com/1001success. Don't forget about the discounted vouchers on my site. You can find those at ProfessorMesser.com/vouchers. And of course, you can find us pretty much everywhere on Twitter, on YouTube, on Instagram. Just go to ProfessorMesser.com/the name of that thing. Now, in this hour, if you think you got something out of that, I would love for you to hit that like button on the video. That really does help us quite a bit. You always hear YouTubers say that. The reason we say that's because YouTube likes us to have those things. They see that people must be watching your videos and they must be liking it. And that's one of the reasons I have to thank you for doing that, because now I have a representative at YouTube that I can talk to with things relating to my channel, which has been very, very useful. So thank you so much for your support and your consideration with that. Stick around for the after show. We have so much more to go through. I'll answer all of your questions. We'll figure it out. But thanks for being here for the first part of our study group. And we'll see you next time on the A+ study group. Let's see now if I can get the phone lines up and running, and then I'll take questions. I promise. This is one where I now have to remember how to do this. I had actually, to tell you a story while I'm doing this, because I have to log back on to my call-in studio thing that I use to be able to call this in, is I bring my laptop in here. Show this to you in just a moment. I bring my laptop in. I put it right here. This is normally not here during the week. I usually have it different part of the house. But I bring it in. I forgot to plug it into power. I've had this laptop for about 7 years. It is very old in its battery. Maybe 6 years, 5 years. But its battery is going bad. So just before I went live, it powered down because I forgot to plug in the power. This is how my day is going. So you didn't know that whenever I started the wrong stream today, I didn't have the right abbreviations on that first performance-based question. You didn't even realize I had messed up way before that, before you'd even come close to that. So that's one that hopefully we're able to work through now. Let me call into my own phone lines so that I can answer my own calls that are coming in. So if you will bear with me a moment, I will type those things in, and the nice lady will say,
enter your 6-digit PIN.
Well, if I can remember, I will do exactly that. And if I type that in right, the nice lady, hi, nice lady.
Welcome, host. You have not started.
Well, I'm offended that you would call me host, but that's okay. I think that's perfect. Now I can, of course, get everything up and running. Let me start my own show. She called me host because I didn't actually start the show to call me the right name. But now I do have that set up. So we will absolutely go through all of that. Am I wearing blue light glasses? I am not. I haven't bought into that whole blue light thing. There probably is some scientific something associated with it. I'm sure there must be. But no, they are not. They're not. They're just regular old glasses. To have that there. Let me quickly move over and get my lower third there so that you can see where you can connect in. Got to move some lower thirds around. There we go. And that means that you can ask a question from the chat room, which you are certainly can do. I'm going to bring up the chat room so I can watch that go by. Hello, everybody. And also, I do have this phone lines up and running if you would like to call in using voice communication. This is one where you can call me on the telephone. Phone number is toll-free number in the continental United States, 855-785-7545. That is 855-785-RJ45. You can also call me for free outside of the continental United States. You would do that by going to Skype and using +1 855-785-7545 with that. And you're able to call in. I think all the phone lines are currently occupied, but we'll be going through them in just a moment. Let me also mention they're near the end of the study group. Ja gave me a $5 donation in the YouTube Super Chat. Thank you so much. And he puts in his note or her note. Thank you, Professor Messer, for all you do. Well, thank you for your donation. We really do appreciate it and being able to work through that. This is, by the way, the Super Chat that's there. A lot of you ask for donations. I don't generally take donations, but since the option is there for the Super Chat, I just turned it on, and some people like to use it, and I appreciate it. So thank you. I do appreciate it quite a bit. And I did get the Super Chat, and thank you for mentioning that. Ja, can I call you Ja, or is it J-A? Or is it Ja? I like Ja. We're going to go with that. One of the things that in the chat room, for those of you that are chatting in here and bringing these things up, when is CompTIA updating the exams, and is it worth it to take it now? Well, the A+ exam, as we mentioned earlier on in the study group, will be updated probably, I would imagine this version of the exam would retire in July of next year. So a year from now. So never, the standing order from me, if you've ever watched anything when I've talked about these retirement dates, is never wait to get certified. Never wait to get certified. You should always get your certification as quickly as you can, put it in your pocket, put it on your CV, put it on your resume, and show people that you know this content. It's much more valuable for you to be certified now than for you to wait a year, I don't know, and be certified then. I have no idea what that works as far as that's concerned. So that's the way, and whenever I start trying to explain, that's an important part. The only time when you might not take the current version or the last version of the exam is perhaps a situation like right now with Security Plus. The 501 Security Plus exam retires on July 31st at the end of this month. So if you were just getting started with Security Plus, I would tell you, oh, don't take the 501, take the 601. But by the way, the 601's been out since November. So it's almost, 6 months old at this point. So you're fine taking the newer 601 exam. But as far as the A+ is concerned, there is no new exam. There's not been a new exam announced. If we follow the path of this, you might see a new version of the A+ perhaps in the January timeframe, but they haven't announced anything yet, and they've been pushing things because of COVID, so we just don't know yet. So my option for you, that's 6 months from now. Why would you wait? Go get certified, put it in your pocket, and be able to have that certification and take it into a job interview and show somebody that you know this content and that you are certified in all of this. That's my recommendation. I think it's an important one. Let's go to the phone lines. We have some folks that have called before, so we're going to pick up those lines. We'll start with Brandon in the 614 area code. Hi, Brandon. Are you there? Oh, I've got to change the potentiometer. Hello, Brandon.
Yes, I'm here.
And I am now as well. Thanks for calling.
Thanks for having me. I just want to say a shout out to thank you for all of the videos, all of the courseware you have. It's been really helpful getting through my CompTIA journey.
Great.
I called a few months ago, actually. I was having trouble with the A+ Core 2 exam. It took me 4 tries to pass that test. And I don't want to freak anyone out, but it's just one thing that I realized, and I won't give any test information, but read the exam objectives precisely, because some of the things on the exam are very specific to the exam objective, even though there may be, like some questions have like multiple answers it could be, but there's only one right answer. Stay close to those exams objectives, because I realized when I took the exam for the 4th time, things that I studied for.
Could you repeat that just one? We all heard it, but I want everyone to make sure they're hearing it from you. I say this all the time, but it's on repeat for me. It almost goes past everybody. Could you repeat that one comment just very quickly?
Yeah, just pay really close to those very specific exam objectives, particularly the ones that with the notes that you have, because they're straight on to what the test is going to be. I understand the test wants you to. It's a hard test. They don't want you to be easy for you, but at the same time, they're not going to give something that are not on the exam objectives. So just pay close to that and study hard.
Well, you beat my record. I took one certification exam 3 times before I finally passed it. You took yours 4 times. I don't know if I would have hung in there. So congratulations first on getting your A+ certification, but perhaps more importantly, congratulations on never quitting, not stopping the process and working until you got that exam done. Well done.
Thanks. I appreciate it. It's been a tough journey.
I can imagine a lot of highs and lows there. But you ended on the high note. I think that's fantastic.
Yeah, I have one question before to ask. So, during this time, I've already got myself a level 1 help desk job, and I'm liking it. And eventually, I want to I already have Network Plus, and I want to move up in the IT world. But when I'm looking at these job descriptions and what they're asking for other level 1 help desks, they want like 5 years of experience to get a level 1 help desk job, which I already have. So can you tell me a little bit more what's realistic the job world for the future of all of them?
I was mentioning this in our Discord, the Professor Messer Discord. For those of you that have not joined our Discord, it is our 24/7 chat. I'm in there all the time. We get conversations going all the time in there. You can find the link on my website at the top right of my site is the Discord link, or simply go to professormesser.com/Discord and it will redirect you over there. We were talking about that very thing, that one of the challenges that as somebody who's going through this and trying to get a job, whether it's your first job or you're trying to move up within IT, you read through some of these job postings and their requirements are just crazy. There's always the one they put on Reddit that talk about you needing to have 10 years of experience in a particular technology, except they'll mention that technology's only been out for 3 years. How are you supposed to have 10 years of experience in a technology that literally has not existed for that amount of time? The problem is that sometimes with some companies, there is a disconnect with the job descriptions that are on the posted job list and what is actually required or desired by the hiring manager. And I think a lot of times it's one where people are copying and pasting and not really realizing it, or the job description is being written by one person, but the hiring manager is someone else. The job descriptions, and you've seen this, and your example was a perfect example of this, is that the requirements are just a little bit silly. And I'm being very nice in my description of that. But one of the things I always tell people is look at the job, look at the overall job requirements, and honestly to yourself say, is this a job I can do? Do I qualify for this job? And if you can honestly look at the overall job and go, yeah, this is in my wheelhouse. This is exactly the type of job I'm looking for. And I think this is a job I can do. Submit your CV, submit your resume, put in an application. Do not allow yourself to be the person that denies you the job. It's not up to you. It's up to the employer. And it may be that all HR is doing is looking through the jobs that come in. Well, your resume certainly seems to fit 75% of what we're asking for. I'm going to forward that on to the manager. And then the manager can make the decision on whether it's a job that you would fit with. None of the people that are put into a job, if you ever get hired for a job, go back and look at the job description, and what you will find is that you don't match 100% of what is in that job description, because nobody matches 100% of what is in a job description. And if employers were going with a 100% match, they'd never hire anybody. So don't worry about what they have in the job description. I will, though, tell you one of the best ways to properly position yourself for jobs like that is to already have a relationship with the people who are in that particular role at that company, or you're really just working at that company. As long as you know somebody who is at that company, it can really help you during the job hunt, and they can kind of pass through all of the crazy requirements that are listed in the job posting. They're just saying, no, just send me your resume. I'll put you on the list, and we'll bring you in with a bunch of people. We can't guarantee you'll get the job, but I'm going to move you up into the second phase or the third phase, and then we'll do that piece of it. It's also a good opportunity, and people are mentioning this in the chat room, that having a cover letter on your resume that talks to the requirements of the job can be a very valuable tool for whoever is screening these job posts and the applications that they're getting. So make sure that you consider perhaps doing, I like the T style, T as in letter T, I like the T style of a cover letter. This is a customized cover letter. You're changing this cover letter with every job that you submit this to. I like the idea of customization because it shows that you paid attention to what they wanted and you're able to describe how you fit with their requirements. It may be nobody looks at the cover letter. That's okay. But sometimes they do. And if that's what you need, this is a very important game that we're playing in the job hunt game. Make sure you show up with every possible advantage that you could have. Don't let somebody else do the cover letter and get the job ahead of you. That's my approach to it. So don't worry that they want 5 years of whatever it is they're working through. You've now been in this job. You can see you've worked with the network team, you've worked with the server team, you've worked with the data center team, you've talked to the database people, you've talked to the email team, you've talked to the security folks. You have an idea of what they do day to day. You have a familiarity with the topics that they have to deal with. And that is one where you can now use that knowledge of their job to decide, what do I want to do next? And use that knowledge to submit your resume. Don't worry about what they're asking for. Consider the entire job posting and what they're really looking for. And then they can tell you if it's a good match or not. And whether it's a good match or not, it's up to them. Sometimes you think it's a good match, but they don't. That's okay. We'll get the next one. Just keep submitting those resumes, and then you'll eventually find the right connection there of the job, the employer, and you, and it will all come together.
Well, I appreciate that. I was only mentioning that because I've already actually experienced where I've already applied for someplace with a recruiter, and they told me I got denied because I didn't have 5 years experience, and they didn't tell me that right at first. So
If
That's
they,
the hard thing too, is
maybe
when you
it's
actually experience it.
if you're working with a recruiter and they tell you after you don't get the job what the requirements were, you might want to consider maybe getting a different recruiter.
Well, that is always possible. So I'll keep that in mind. Thanks, Professor Messer. I appreciate it.
Congratulations, Brandon. Best of luck.
All right, thanks. You too. Have a good one.
Recruiting is it's a real fight to try to find the right recruiter. I think in the last half of my career, I worked with maybe one, I still remember his name, recruiter that if I ever was looking for a job or he was trying to find and fill a job, we would communicate. And he would just have an inbound call. And sometimes I would match him with someone else. Sometimes I would ask more about the job that he was asking about. You have to find the right person. Not all recruiters, obviously, not all recruiters are good or built the same. You have to find the one that fits you the best. So that's the real key. I have a video I did on the 5 reasons your resume keeps getting rejected. And I did a follow-up to that, which is 5 more reasons why your resume keeps getting rejected. And in one of those, I think it's the 5 more video, the second video, I talk about that T resume cover letter and how you could build it and how easy it is. So some folks in the chat room were saying, cover letters, they seem like I'm begging. Well, they don't. They don't have to seem that way. And what I like about the T style of cover letter is you're putting on one side of the T, here's what you asked for. And on the other side of the T, you put, and here's what I can provide you. And you take like 4 or 5, just cherry pick the things in the job description that best fit your experience and requirements and put them on the list. Oh, you want somebody who is able to do this? Well, I do that. Oh, you want somebody who has knowledge of this? I have knowledge of that and more. Oh, you want somebody that can do this? Well, I've been doing this for 2 years. So you can list those things out, and all you're really doing, you are promoting yourself. You do have to market yourself. That is a good way to go about doing it. Let's go back to the phone calls to the 978 area code in Westford. Are you there, caller?
Hi there. How are you doing today?
Thanks for calling. I appreciate it. I used to work in Westford, Mass. At a company, so I haven't been up to Kimball Farms to get ice cream in quite some time. What can we do for you, caller?
Exactly. All right. So a little background on myself. I am 27 years of age with no college degree. I worked on a few restaurants since I finished high school and even got a management position for a year, and then pandemic hit.
Okay.
So ever since the restaurants closed, I've been trying to figure out what I wanted to do. And in January, I decided to get into tech.
Great.
So in this half year, I started from very zero, but I've learned Python, some DevOps tools, and cloud.
Okay.
I've gotten the AWS Solutions Architect, the SysOps Associate Cert from AWS, and I'm getting my A+ in Network Plus this month.
Wow. Okay.
So I guess my question really would be whether the certs, the CompTIA certs and the AWS certs help each other, or whether they go in different directions, whether the cloud architecture and the IT networking and security overlap in any jobs. And I live in the LA area, if it matters.
Okay. This is one of those situations where it almost depends on where you live. So that's an important part of this. And the other part that is important is what employers are asking for in your particular area. So this does matter quite a bit, at least in the United States. This is an important consideration. And what you're bringing to the table is very similar to many stories I'm getting right now, because the restaurant industry and tourist industry was really hit hard during the COVID. A lot of people realized, I'm in a bad situation. I need a job where I'm working and making money. And all those tech people, they never stopped. In fact, they worked harder during COVID than they did during any other time. Suddenly, they were scrambling to get VPNs running, get everybody a laptop, and they were very, very busy. And that's one of the things that I promoted for a long time, is that technology is one of those things that applies to every industry, everywhere and everybody needs tech. So this is the challenge you run into. And by the way, you've done an amazing job at putting together a very nice core group of certifications and knowledge. You've hit all the big spots. You've hit the A+ and the AWS and the Python programming, and you've really done a great job of creating a well-rounded set of credentials that you could show an employer things that you know. But now we have to figure out what are employers asking for, because that's the real question. You can get every certification in the world, but if the employer's wanting that one certification you don't have, well, then that doesn't help you very much. And that's the one thing I try to explain or try to convince people to do is if they are working through the process of trying to get a job somewhere, they think, well, I'm going to go get my A+ and my Network Plus, my Security Plus, and my AWS and some Microsoft Azure and my CCNA and just a big list of things. And then I ask, well, what does the employer want? And they sometimes will say, they'll know. And they go, oh, the employer says they want these things. Or they'll say, I don't know, I haven't asked them. So it's really, we're going to have to turn turn it around a little bit and see, are the things that we're working towards really going to help us with the jobs that we want? I talk about this in the video that I created called How to Get a Job in IT with No Experience. And if I don't have it on the video description of this video, I'll make sure Lori is watching. Lori and I are in sync, and she will make sure that I get that in that video description. That is a video where I go through the process of saying, how do you even know which certs to get? How do you know which ones are valuable? And one of the things I tell people is, do you create a spreadsheet? You do some legwork. You do the hard research in your area and create a spreadsheet and list out every job in your area that seems to fit your requirements. Maybe if it's your first job, it's every help desk job in your area. And some employers want an A+, and some employers don't want an A+, or they don't mention it. Some employers say they want a Network Plus. Some employers say they want a Microsoft. So it varies depending on the company and depending really sometimes on what they're willing to pay. That is one where I tell people, go find out what the majority of people in your area are asking for. And you may find if you're in the Virginia, D.C. area, you may find that all those entry-level jobs are all Security Plus, which I would bet they are. Almost every employer up there tends to push Security Plus as the primary because the Department of Defense uses that as their initial baseline for hiring people in IT. So that's a really good example of how Virginia and D.C. and Maryland may be very different than Los Angeles, because there maybe nobody in LA is asking for Security Plus because it's not an emphasis. Maybe everybody there is asking for A+. So you do have to do a little bit of legwork. You have to figure out what are people asking for and what are they really looking for. And although in that video I mentioned you need a formal education if possible, it's not a requirement. I mean, you mentioned not having a formal college degree. I worked with tons of people in IT who did not have a formal college degree. It is not a hard and fast requirement that you might find. You know, if you want to be a lawyer, that's different. If you want to be a doctor, that's different. But if you want to work in IT and probably make more money than a lawyer or a doctor, you don't need that. The other one thing I always tell people is it's useful to have these certifications, but it's also useful to know people. And you worked in an industry where knowing people and working with people was an important part of this. Your personality and meeting people and knowing what they're doing. This is the time when you need to reach back to some of these customers that you knew and ask them, hey, I'm getting into IT. Do you or someone in your family or someone you know, do they work in an organization with an IT department? Can I send them my resume? Just ask them. Just start asking. All they can say is no. Try to find that personal link, that personal connection, because it gets you past a number of those walls that go up during the hiring process. It's a little more difficult when you're missing one of those 4 elements, which is formal education, certification, having some type of practical experience, and having a knowledge or knowing someone who works there. If you're missing one of those, you need to compensate with one of the others that you do have. So I always tell people one of the biggest ones is knowing someone who works there. And if you can find that and they're willing to give you that shot, that's a very easy way to jump over all of those stumbling blocks they put in your way. And for what you're doing all the right things, by the way. You're looking and getting all the right set of knowledge. It's not just all networking. It's not just all security. You've got a nice cloud piece in there. You've got the A+ that you're working on. You've got the Python, extremely valuable when you combine those things together. All of those combined together really are greater than the sum of its individual parts. So keep doing that. Keep putting together those things. Maybe the next thing you do is put a lab together in your house, put up a firewall, put up a Windows Active Directory, build your own Linux machine, load up your own web server, do some things wrong so that you have some things to talk about during the job. If you finally get in front of somebody, you can talk to them about, oh yeah, I run a web server in my house. I built it from Linux. I'm running Apache. I set it up and then it had this problem and then I fixed it and here's how I did that. Those are the stories you need to take into the job interview. And it's valuable stuff. I like what you're doing. Just keep doing that piece of it, but make sure you focus on what the employers want, not necessarily what everybody else in our industry is trying to tell you you should really get.
Okay, I really appreciate that. And thank you for the home lab tip, because that's really something exciting to do next.
It's free, it's easy, it's simple. Yeah, absolutely go through that.
Yeah, I'm planning to do that with the Network Plus studying, or after that maybe, depending on how comfortable I am with it. And just a little add-on. So you're saying that the cloud part of it and the raw IT hardware, networking, and even the security part, they don't really kind of cancel each other out. They do add to each other for like a future, like a higher level, like positions for this career.
It's one of those things where it really is a double-edged sword, because we always talk about certifications as the thing that will get you a job or get you a better job. And certainly certifications can help you do that. But one of the things I think we don't say enough is that when you go through the process of learning the material for these certifications, you're actually learning quite a bit of tech. If you get a cloud-based certification, a certification in cloud technology of some kind, you've now learned a bunch of cloud content. If you go through the process of getting your A+, you've learned a lot about hardware and a lot about different operating systems. If you go get your Network Plus, now you've learned a lot about all these packets and protocols that are going over the network. So even if an employer doesn't use this information or doesn't care that you have those certifications, these are skills that you will use for the entirety of your career. There are things that I learned when I first learned Ethernet, back when we used stone tablets to transmit the packets. When I first learned Ethernet, those things I learned and the skills and the knowledge I gained when learning that are still applied to the latest networking technologies. So make sure that you don't forget that, yeah, maybe an employer doesn't care you got Network Plus. Maybe an employer doesn't care that you got this cloud computing. But if you get hired by one of these employers, or when you get hired, suddenly you've got a whole foundational set of skills that you can bring to the table that are going to help you move up faster. You're going to get a better job, maybe the same company or somewhere else, which of course means you're going to make more money. So this is not just an investment in getting a job. It's an investment in your knowledge base and gives you the leverage you need to move up quickly in the industry.
That's amazing. Thank you so much. Thanks for all your videos and all the information you provide, and have a good day.
Appreciate you calling. Best of luck. That's all the right things this caller's doing. I love the idea of getting knowledge with Python. I love the idea of getting some cloud-based knowledge under your belt. I love the idea of getting the basics and the fundamentals like A+ that employers are constantly asking about. So very useful to have that. In the chat room, Main Jr. is asking, is there a 1002, a Core 2 study session soon? There is on Thursday, assuming that assuming the internet links are still running after the tropical storm comes through. But we're still planning for Thursday. And if the lines are up, I'm doing one. I've already made the questions. They're already there. So I probably should ask the questions. Spent so much time making them. It takes me about half a day to put together a study group, so it'd be not so great. Speaking of being stuck in Florida during a tropical storm, let's go to Ed in South Florida. Hello, Ed.
Hi, Professor Messer, and thank you for taking my call.
Have you got the hurricane shutters up yet?
No, it's cloudy down here, getting a little bit of rain, but not too bad.
In South Florida, it's just it's a tropical storm. We're going to be fine. So I think we're in good shape this time through. What can we do for you?
Well, I got two questions for you. First one is about Windows 11 is coming out, and
yes.
From what I've read, it's about to leave a lot of the computers in the dust that we currently have. Basically, if your computer doesn't have a trusted platform module, it's not going to be able to run a Windows 11. And so the question I have is mostly related to desktops. Isn't there an expansion card or something that you can plug into existing desktops that would give you that functionality?
Perhaps. The answer is perhaps. The answer is maybe. And if for those of you that have not been kind of watching the Windows 11 announcement and release that happened this last week, this is first confusing to all of us that were told by Microsoft years ago that we're never going to do that Windows 11. It's just going to be Windows 10 forever now. Everything's going to be Windows 10, Windows 10. We're going to build everything on Windows 10. You're never going to see anything later than Windows 10. Fast forward to last week. Oh, we're going to do Windows 11. Did we say we were only going to do Windows 10? What we meant was that we're totally doing Windows 11. And what I think was probably the biggest, I won't say mistake of this announcement, but certainly one that was a surprise, to put it nicely to everybody, is that the basic requirements of this require that you not just have a trusted platform module in your computer, because quite honestly, these days, almost everybody's computer has a trusted platform module in it at this point. But they want a very specific version of TPM, which is a relatively new version, because we don't tend to swap out our computers every year. We usually keep them around for years. They wanted version 2.0 of a trusted platform module, and that is the minimum requirement for Windows 11. I sort of think that Microsoft realized when they were putting together these hardware requirements that even they realized that this is not going to meet probably the majority of what people have as their computer they use today. And I say that because if you go to their website and say, oh, I'd like to run Windows 11, and they show you all the specifications, and you tell them, well, here's the machine I have, and the answer is it pops back a message that goes, well, that machine's not going to run Windows 11, but you can buy a new one right here. They actually give you a link on the page where you can go to buy a new computer. It's not exactly the approach I was hoping that they would be able to take with this, but maybe this is something that some people can use. Now, your question was not only, am I going to need this Trusted Platform Module 2.0? Some people don't have a TPM on their motherboard. Some do. Some motherboards support the ability to plug in, let me bring up on the screen while I'm talking to this, where there is a slot on the motherboard that allows you to plug in a trusted platform module. In fact, there's an example, a picture of a chip of one where you can plug, it's a separate piece of electronics that you can get. You can unplug the TPM and plug in a new one. So you can unplug the 1.2 TPM you're using and plug in a 2.0 version. You can effectively upgrade the TPM. There are also some motherboards that the BIOS allows you to run a BIOS upgrade or a firmware upgrade for the TPM that will upgrade the existing TPM on a particular system. And there are also, of course, motherboards where you can't change the TPM. There's no way to swap it out. There's no way to change the module. There's no way to do a firmware upgrade. So that's not going to work either. So that means that everybody's machine's a little bit different. Everyone's scenario of what they can upgrade or what they can't upgrade on their system is a little bit different. There is a very big challenge now that everybody's gone through this. They're now, but wait, I'm not going to be able to upgrade to Windows because I don't have TPM 2.0. So we're not sure if Microsoft is going to come back with any clarifications that say, well, 2.0 would be ideal, but we could also support these versions. So far, they've been pretty strong at saying, no, it's got to be 2.0. You have to get a new system. What they have said, though, is that Windows 10 is going to be around and supported for years. So don't worry that you can't upgrade to Windows 11 right now. You can still run the Windows 10 that you've been running, and you can run it for really until your hardware is outdated and you buy a new computer anyway. I think that's their philosophy. But what they perhaps did not consider, or maybe they did consider it and they aren't mentioning, is that we don't want to run the old stuff. We want to run the new stuff. They just had the big announcement. They showed the user interface. It's beautiful. It's gorgeous. It has some enhancements to it. They're talking about this, the ability to run some of these Android apps on it, which is not exactly true, sort of true, but not really. And yes, it is. It has a lot of new things in it. We're all salivating. And then they say, yeah, but you won't be able to use that. You can't run that one. So that's why whenever I tell people, that is one of those situations where you don't want to be in a situation where you are trying to figure out, does the system run or does it not run? Maybe you can do the extra work, but who is it that knows where to even go to see if there's a way to upgrade your system? I can't go to my parents' house and say, oh, mom and dad, do you have a TPM 2.0 in your system? And if you don't, do you have a module you can disconnect from your motherboard plug-in? They're not going to know, nor should they worry about that. So this is going to be a set of confusing hurdles to jump over until I guess everybody gets their new computer. And then, of course, all of those are going to be TPM 2.0 and later. It's a challenge. It sort of took everybody by surprise when the hardware requirements came out. But we do have until the end of the year. We're not going to see Windows 11 until sort of the holiday time frame at the end of the year, beginning of next. So we'll see at that point, have the requirements changed? Have the requirements stayed the same? Have people been able to upgrade? What are the options? And we all just may go along with Windows 10. Now, I'm of course looking at you Windows 8 people, Windows 7 people. They're already used to doing this. So maybe we'll take a page out of their book, Ed.
Well, from what I've read, they're going to offer support through the end of 2025. So that'll give us some time. But I think that was kind of short-sighted of them to say that Windows 10 would be the last operating system, because that's just not how technology works. You know, we're always changing, and that's how things go. Especially with the ransomware, and there'll be other kinds of attacks in the future that I'm not even aware of today. But anyways, my second question is, when do you think the price of GPUs might be coming back down?
Oh, if we knew that, just not even the price, just the availability of GPUs. If you can get your hands on one, it's been a challenge to get your hands on any of these graphical processing units, these graphics cards for our computer. If you're a gamer, it is frustrating what we've had to go through. Part of the problem has been the availability of these parts. When everything shut down, we now have this enormous need for this equipment, while at the same time that everything shut down, the cryptocurrency market exploded. And so everybody started buying those GPUs for doing crypto mining. That took away the availability. I wish I knew when these things would be coming out. People are saying it's going to be months, if not a year, before we start seeing more availability with these. We sort of saw this with the console market because they have these GPUs inside of these PlayStations and Xboxes. The Xbox came out in November. I was able to upgrade last month. That's how long it took to finally get my hands on hardware. This is one of those challenges that we are having to work through. Now that the crypto market they've kind of come down off of the craziness. It is not quite the same. It crashed good. So now people are saying, okay, I don't need to buy any more GPUs. Maybe now there'll be more GPUs for the rest of us. I hope that's the case.
Yeah, well, I think the cryptocurrency that was using the GPUs was the Ethereum. And I believe they're going to be using a new method, if I'm not mistaken, to do the integrity checks as opposed to the mining operation that they're currently using. They're going to use something called stakeholders.
Yep.
And I guess these are the people that have the most amount of Ethereum coins, and they won't have the need to do the hard crunching anymore that they have been doing. So hopefully that'll help the market out a little bit also.
I think one of the things that that someone needs to come up with, and perhaps it was a good example when it was brought up at the peak of this cryptocurrency mining craze just about a month or so ago, was that it uses so many natural resources. There is a concern about using so much power just to be able to mine cryptocurrency that maybe we should take a step back and do it differently. We'll have to see what we come up with and see what the next step will be.
I just want to leave with one other comment that we were talking about getting jobs in IT. And it seems like a lot of the focus has been on what the employers are requiring, what kind of certifications they're looking for, and so on. But I think the other half of that coin, too, is what is it that the person really enjoys doing? Do they like coding as opposed to working in IT? Because finding something that you really enjoy doing, you're going to be more successful at it also. And when you're more successful and you're really into it, you're going to be really good at it. And I think that's a quality that is understated.
Not just understated, but perhaps not directly understood by people who are getting into IT. First, I think people getting into IT have a natural interest in technology. Otherwise, that's probably not an area you would get into. But I often tell people, once you get in, you'll get that first help desk job, which is not going to be a great job, quite honestly. It can be a fun job. And you learn a lot at the help desk, but you're really at the bottom level of IT. But it's your opportunity, once you get your foot in that door, to look around at all of the different things available. And that's one of the things I tried to do in my career is I would see something interesting. That networking thing is very interesting. Let me learn everything I can about that networking thing. And as soon as you now become knowledgeable in that networking thing or whatever made you get interested in it, suddenly now you have an expertise in that. And very commonly a job might open up with that particular knowledge. I think IT allows you to do that perhaps even better than almost any other vertical market out there. You can't do that in medicine very easily. You can't do that in the legal field. You can't do that in transportation. You can't do that in manufacturing. But boy, you can really do that in IT. And in my career, I've gone from help desk to desktop support to server support to network support to security, all because that was my interest. Then your interests will change over time. Technologies will change over time. I think finding that very glittery, fun thing to work on can not only be interesting to you that you have a reason to get up in the morning and go to your job, it actually provide you with some perhaps financial advantages in the future too. You're absolutely right. You should always consider what you want to be able to do, because that's going to be able to motivate you better and faster through those career jumps.
Well, thank you for taking my call, Professor Messer, and you've been a big help for a lot of people, and we appreciate it.
Stay safe, Ed. Hope you make it through the storm okay.
Thank you.
You know, one of the things that I was hoping that Microsoft would do with the Windows 10 was really keep it as Windows 10. I think they saw what Apple has done. For those of you not familiar with OS 10, it's written as OS X in the Mac OS world. OS 10 has been around since 2001, and we've been running OS 10 since 2001. We're still running OS 10. The OS 10 we run today, very different than the OS 10 that came out in 2001. So I think they were right in their idea of, let's just call it Windows 10. We're just going to call it Windows. It's just going to be Windows 10. And in fact, the Windows 10 that was released, also you could start to see there's quite a bit different in the version of Windows 10 that's running now. They were really on board with this. And then they've now just decided to throw that out. Who needs... I don't know why, but they just threw it out. Nope, we're going back to making a bunch of different letters and numbers, and we're going to go with this. I think what they found was the frustrations I ran into was that you were running things in Windows 10, but you would then have to say, well, which version of Windows 10 are you running it in? And unlike Apple, they gave really nice names. Oh, you're running Big Sur. Are you running... when you don't have to remember Windows 10.11.4, you just call it Windows 10. Maybe you give it a different name. Maybe instead of using the name of places in California, they come up with their own naming convention. But they didn't do that. They just said, okay, we're going to call it Windows 11. In any case, that's where we are, and that's what we're going to call it. So, for those of you planning on taking your A+ certification, will the next version of the A+ have Windows 11 on it? Who knows? And be able to work through that. We'll have to see. We don't know at the point. Let's go back to the phone line, 617 area code. Hi, caller. Which name are you calling from?
My name is Vincent, and I'm calling from Needham Heights.
Hey, Vincent. You've called before. What can we do for you?
Yeah, so pretty much I called you last month. But I made progress since then. I've started my job search. I had an informational interview with someone in the field.
Nice.
Yeah, hold on a second.
Hold on my calls.
Yeah. So with that informational interview, the two top growing fields were cybersecurity and cloud. I find cloud a lot more interesting than cybersecurity. But I have different options open. I actually have a job interview for a Genius Bar position at my local Apple retail store.
Great.
And the reason, and kind of my interest in that and what I want to find out in an interview is if they would finance Apple certifications in Apple certification, which when I interviewed with the Best Buy in Framingham, January of 2020, when I was just about to start my CompTIA A+ studies, which I have now. Because this was back when I really when I was new to technology, I didn't have much experience with it. I had my Google certificate, but I didn't really have any real experience working formally with technology. He also suggested getting this was probably general IT advice based on the lack of experience I had, that getting a Microsoft and Apple certificate would help my resume. But I'm going to ask you in preparation for my interview with Apple on Thursday, are you familiar with Apple certifications and what careers can they lead to? Is this sort of could be different than what people typically go after getting their A+ certification?
It is a little bit different than what people go after. I looked into perhaps, and I still have on my list of things I would love to be able to do someday, is Apple certifications. I think they are valuable certifications, but they are a niche cert, to be clear. certainly the technologies that Apple uses, the technologies that it's very similar technologies than what you would have in working with an Intel or any other type or an AMD-based computer. There's still a BIOS, there's still a storage device, there's still a display screen, there's still an operating system. You know, the fundamentals are identical on an Apple device, but the method of troubleshooting, the philosophy of connectivity between the desktop, the laptop, the mobile devices is very different than when you were in something like a Windows or Linux environment. So there are some really important and significant advantages to getting an Apple certification if you are in that particular ecosystem. And I think if you are in an environment, if you're working with a technology company in Silicon Valley, maybe 50% or more of the people in that company are going to be running Mac OS. If you're working in a college or university, tons of Macs everywhere. Certainly, if you're working in a Best Buy or obviously an Apple store, those become very critical technologies to know. So for the people that need them, the Apple cert is very valuable. But because Apple's footprint, their market share is relatively small compared to the Windows market share or even the Linux market share, it becomes more of a time sensitive type scenario. If you're just generically trying to find a job in your area, you'll probably not find Apple certs at the top of the list. If you were to do the measurements of what everybody was asking for, maybe one employer might ask for that. Certainly the places that are Apple centric would ask for something like that, but maybe nobody else would. And I think that's the reason I have not created an Apple cert video series at this point, because of that. Is just so few people would need to see it. And for my particular business model, I need people to see the content in order for it to pay for itself, in order for it to be worth the time of me doing it. So that's a plus or a minus. I love the technology. I use Mac OS, I use Linux, I use Windows in this business that I have, but it's just not quite connected for me in being able to create it. But if you're going to go in and talk to Apple and you want to get a job working in an Apple store or working with an organization that has a lot of Apple equipment, I bet they would love it if you had an Apple cert. It just, the difference is finding that niche that would work for you.
Okay. Yeah, that would be what I asked them. So the alternatives to Apple is I'm trying to get my first IT job and get some job experience on my resume before I start going into other certifications. Because if it's not Apple, I would want to prepare myself to like get certifications in the cloud and build my IT career working in the cloud. So basically, like if I do like the alternative to Apple and just get a general help desk job, how do I start to branch out to move to like getting cloud certifications? And when the time, because I actually watched your getting an IT job without experience, and one of the things you mentioned is if you stack up too many certifications with too little job experience, you start to become an overqualified candidate.
Sure. So
I'm really trying to get a balance of certifications and resume and obtain certifications at least close to the same rate as I build my job experience. So what do you recommend, like, after getting my entry-level IT job at a help desk if it's not going to be a genius position at Apple? And what are good certifications to like start thinking about now that I got my A+?
There's two places you can kind of focus on, I think, where people should focus on when they get their foot in the door. That's the point where you already have to have a strategy on what you're planning to do next. You may not know exactly what the topic or what the job will be that you're going to be doing next, but if you have that entry-level position in IT, you should already be thinking about, all right, I need to be here a year, learn as much as I possibly can, be a sponge, learn about all these technologies, learn about the internal processes and procedures we use at this company, learn who is in the network team, learn about who is in the server team, the desktop team, the security folks, learn what they're doing, find out as much information as I can about those jobs that they are doing, and then start looking around to see which one of those interests me. Because once you're in the help desk, you now have an opportunity to move into something else out of there. And it might be that you have an interest in operating systems. Maybe Linux is something you like to do. Maybe you find that the network team is more interesting than anything else. And you should ask them when you find that interest. And when you say, I'm ready to get out of the help desk, or I'm looking a year from now to move. Let's say I want to move out of the help desk a year from now, and pose the question to the network team, what would I need to know to be able to work with you guys on the network team? Or talk to the server team. What would I need to know to be able to manage the Linux servers like you guys are doing? What can I do in the meantime? Do you have projects coming up? Do you have conversions that you're working on? Can I shadow somebody? Can I look over your shoulder? Are you doing anything during the week or on the weekends that I can now find out more about? Can I work with you along those lines? I don't have to be on the help desk to do it. I just want to, if you need a warm body to help move things around, to help plug cables in, to help just watch what you're doing, I want to be that warm body. Talk to them, get that relationship going with those folks, because they're going to be wanting to poach you, because now you know more about what they're doing than anybody else in the help desk. And they're going to want to move you out of there and get you into an entry-level position with them, which, by the way, is not an entry-level position in IT. You're now at the next tier up. And now you can start working with them and looking at those technologies and learning more about what they're doing. And any of those, whether you're in workstations, servers, networking, security, databases, whatever it happens to be, you could create an entire career on that single set of technologies, and you would never have to go anywhere else. But I think what most people end up doing is going to that level, getting an expertise in that particular set of technologies, and then using that expertise to move up to a higher tier within IT to have more flexibility with your job, to do a different kind of job, to make more money in your job, or whatever the important thing is for what you're doing. So there's not one path. I can't say, well, you start here, and then you go to step 2, and then you go to step 3, and then you go to step 4, because everybody has a different path. There's a different set of skills people are looking for. Different opportunities come up. You just have to find and wait and be ready when that opportunity is there. And the only way to be ready is to keep working on the basic skills, learn everything you can, build the relationships, go to lunch with these people, find out what you need to know, learn more about what they're doing, and they would, at that point, be begging you to come work in their department.
Okay. Very helpful advice. Thank you for taking the time, and talk to you some other time.
Thanks, Vincent. I appreciate the call. Best of luck. That's exciting, though. And think of all the options now available. We just talked about Apple and getting a help desk position and learning A+, or do we get Apple certifications? These are great questions, and having those things there. I think that's phenomenal. Let's go back to the phones. Let's go to Alex in the 931 area code. Hello, caller. What's your name? Where are you calling from? I think it's Alex.
Yeah, this is Alex from Tennessee. How are you today, Mr. Messer?
Thanks for calling, Alex. What can we do for you?
I actually just had 2 quick questions. So the other day I set up a firewall just because I'm on break from school, so I just wanted something to do in my spare time. And after I set it up, and I had a couple thousand detections, I figured I would post it to Discord and, be like, hey, look at this. And I actually got a lot of, I guess you would call it kind of pushback from people saying, that would never happen if you wouldn't have set up a firewall in the first place. And that ISP routers due to NAT actually basically make your router a black hole, and they don't listen to any ports. And so I just kind of wanted to get your opinion with the way routers are nowadays and the way that they do close the ports. Is it even worth having a SOHO firewall? I mean, even though mine was just for putting together a lab, like the typical consumer, maybe.
I can tell you, as someone who has been working with next generation firewalls since there have been next generation firewalls, there is never a single configuration that is the norm. Nothing is the norm. Everybody has a different set of requirements. Everybody has a different physical configuration. Some people have routers that front end all of their internet connectivity. Some people have no routers as the front end of their internet connectivity. In fact, I would say the vast majority are using their firewalls as their internet router. So the firewall is their layer 3 device. You will, of course, get lots of opinions and lots of constructive criticism and feedback from the internet about what people think is the right thing to do. And in their environment, what they are doing probably is the right thing to do. But every company is a little bit different in their design. Most of what I did when working with next-gen firewalls was the design part, was to listen to what somebody's problems were, what their requirements were, what they were trying to solve, and then say, well, let's look at your design of how your configuration is now on your internet. Now, how would this fit into that design? Sometimes that's configuring the firewall as a layer 3 device and it routed. Sometimes it's having the firewall sit behind it as a layer 2 device and do switching. Sometimes it's having the firewall sit as a bump in the wire at layer 1 and be effectively invisible to the devices that are already there. And there are advantages and disadvantages to each one of those designs. There's a different design for every single environment, it seems. And everybody has a slightly different way of connecting and managing what the firewall is doing. Some people have the firewall as the center of everything. It is their VPN concentrator. It looks for viruses. It's their IPS. It does URL filtering. It is a proxy for SSL. It does the firewalling at the application level. It does some port-based filtering. It's an everything box. Other people feel like the firewall should firewall, the router should route, and the switch should switch, and they have 3 separate devices doing those types of things, which is a perfectly reasonable design depending on what your requirements are. I work with a number of customers where your firewall can't route because the routing is the responsibility of the network team and the firewall is the responsibility of the security team. So you can't have those 2 things in the same device. Other places I'd walk in and say, the router has to route. It's incredibly important that the firewall be the router as well. So in other environments, it's the exact opposite, where you have to bundle it all together. So it's one of those where there's never any one reason. When I say you should create a lab, put a firewall up in your environment, start passing traffic through it, start seeing what attacks are coming from the internet, just raw attacks coming in that are being blocked by the firewall, be able to talk about the problems you had implementing it in the first place, talk about the reports that you create on that. It really doesn't matter what other people think, whether that's good or bad. All of that is valuable information to learn, because once you learn how to do that, it's almost identical across every firewall. The natting process is the same. The idea of setting up routing on a firewall is the same across firewalls, maybe different commands and a different set of processes, but the designing and the implementation of your subnets, of the IP addresses, of how you do the routing. Are you going to static route? Are you going to have dynamic routing? Are you going to do route redistribution if you're doing dynamic routing? There's all these different design issues that are, by the way, are identical regardless of what manufacturer's firewall you're going to use. So once you get it down the first time, and you've talked to somebody about, well, I just took an off-the-shelf open source, or I used a free firewall out there. I installed pfSense. I installed one of these other firewall types that are out there. I plugged this in and I ran it. That's all good stuff. Whether somebody else thinks it's good or not, that's a perfectly reasonable argument you can have. But in the meantime, you've installed it. You've had to set up the layer 3 routing on it. You had to set up the natting on it. You had to build the firewall rules. You had to watch the traffic coming through and look at the logs. You had to create the reports. That's a firewall job right there. You're now in IT security. That's what people in IT security do all the time. So you're doing the right stuff. I wouldn't even worry about some of the negative Nancy's you'll run into. Don't worry about them. Keep doing what you're doing. Just keep learning from it.
Okay, and the second one kind of lines up with some stuff that others have been asking, kind of deals with resume. I've been in IT for about a year now, and I've taken everything that I could, from all of the Google IT courses to the Python courses, tons of IBM courses. And so my resume is starting to build up with what you would maybe call padding certifications. And so I was just wondering, at some point, should I start dropping some of these lesser certifications, some of these Coursera labs and such, and maybe start focusing more on my like Red Hat and IBM certifications and CompTIA, or should I just leave it all as is, just to show, I have been doing all of this A to Z?
Well, it's a little bit of a balancing act, because you want your resume to get through the automated resume filter process, because there are these resume systems that when you send in your resume, you send in your application, it will automatically go through and parse your resume, look for keywords, and it will score it based on what the HR people believe are the important keywords we should be looking for. They will, at that point, if your score is good enough, they will look at it as a human being and go, let me look through this and see what we got here. Now, if they start to see there's 50 certifications slash training classes slash things you happen to know, they might look at that and go, 50? Really? You really know all of this? No, of course you don't. But they know it's on the resume. So they might throw it out right there. Or they might decide, wow, this guy really knows this web stuff and he knows all the cloud. He knows the Microsoft. Oh, this job is definitely way under what he can do. He's way overqualified for this job. We'll not even consider him for that job. When the reality might have been you would be perfect for that job, except you overqualified yourself in that particular resume you sent to them. And that's why I tell people you should not have a resume. You should have many, many, many resumes that you are customizing for the job you happen to be submitting this for. If the employer is asking for an A+ cert, I would put down that I had the A+ cert and maybe one or two of the other really good ones that I have. But I certainly, if it was a help desk position and they were looking for A+, I wouldn't put on my resume that I have my CCNA. That is a higher level cert. It deals with routing and switching. It's a Cisco certification. It's a next level. If somebody looked at that, they would go, oh, he would be bored at a help desk. I'm not even going to consider him. And when in reality, help desk would have been the perfect job for what you were trying to do. That's why when I say it's a balancing act, that's what I mean. You have to give the employer just enough of what they've been asking for and maybe just a little bit above that, but you don't want to go overboard with this and overwhelm or make the employer believe that you have more qualifications than you actually have. It seems like you would want to do that. It seems like you would want to tell an employer, look at all these things I know. I'm a really smart person. But what they read when they read through this resume is, oh, they're going to be bored. They're going to be out of here in a month. There's no way I'm going to put them into this position. Let's find somebody who's a better fit for this job. So you have to, they're looking for this square. You have to create a resume that fits perfectly into that square hole and maybe a little bit outside of it. Maybe it overlaps that square hole just a little bit. But you do not want to be in a position where they're asking for this square of information and you're giving them a huge 5-sided circular thing that won't fit into what they're looking for that particular job. It is that balancing act. You start to get a better feel for it once you go through a lot of resumes, you go through a lot of job applications. But if you're ever wondering, this is where it's useful to know somebody at the organization where you can ask them, what is it you guys are really looking for a help desk position? Or if you'd like to be bold with it, if they're asking for a help desk job, send a LinkedIn message to the person in charge of the help desk and say, what are the 3 key things I should put on this resume for you? What would you like to see from me? What are the 3 things you would love to have for this person taking this role? And maybe they'll answer you, or maybe they won't. But the job hunt is nothing if not rejection. You get used to that. Of course, you're going to say no. If somebody says yes, it's a surprise. So why not ask? Send them an email. Hey, I saw you have a job opening. If you could, tell me what are the 3 things you would love to have on this. I'd love to put in an application and send this over to you guys. What do you think? And it also might start a conversation with them. They might remember you better. They might absolutely bring you in for this job, or at least move you past one of those hurdles and maybe move you to the next phase along the line. Anything like that might help.
Right. I really appreciate that. That was actually a very excellent advice. And I also bought your physical copies of the 1001 and 1002 A+ books, and I just wanted to say thank you. They're very excellent study materials. So
I appreciate that, and thank you for your support. Thank you for looking through those. Hopefully, they will help you. I think it's a win-win. Hopefully, they'll get you where you need to be in that job hunt.
Yes, sir. But all right, well, you have a good rest of your day.
Thanks, Alex. Best of luck. That's fantastic. Whenever I start worrying about putting together a resume, what should go on the resume, every resume you submit should be customized. I talk about this in my series of why your resume keeps getting rejected. And I talk about every resume you submit should be customized. Why are you not spending 5 minutes to customize your resume? And I explain how to customize it in the video. Valuable if somebody receives a resume. This resume seems like it was written for this job. Yeah, because I wrote it for that job. That's what you're trying to do. It's as much a strategy process. It's a game of risk. You're trying to figure out, what are they going to do? What are they going to do? How can I do it better than what they're going to do? Why aren't you spending the time to do that? I hear a lot of people, they say, I just got one resume. I just send it to everybody. Why are you doing that? You're missing an opportunity, and there's ways to do that. Patrick in the chat room, thank you for the notes and for taking the A+ practice exam. I appreciate your support. And Sharath in the chat room, just passed your A+ today. Congratulations. Fantastic. That's great to hear. I love hearing those stories too. Caller at the 203 area code, you've been holding for so long. Thank you for holding. Which name are you calling from? Scramble for the phone.
My name is Megan.
Hi, Megan.
Oh, I want to make sure. I'm watching you too, so I'm just like a little confused.
Listen in on the phone. You'll do fine. Thanks for calling.
Oh, okay. Hi. First of all, thank you. I really appreciate all your help because very helpful. I'm just breaking into IT, and I just have a few questions.
Sure.
I'm struggling right now with studying. I've been studying your material. I got your practice exam notes and your what else? The course notes.
Thank you.
And I've been using Mike Myers' course. So I just wanted to have just maybe some study tips on how to study for the CompTIA A+. I'm really struggling retaining information. Network was very, very hard for me.
It's a ton of information. It's all coming from different places. There's books, there's course notes, there's practice exams, there's videos, and the depth, or I should say the breadth of what you have to know is very broad for the Core 1 and very broad for the Core 2. These are big exams. That's why there's 2 separate exams, because they are so big. And there's a lot that you have to know in all of these. So the things that you're seeing and perhaps the challenges and frustrations you're seeing with having to put that into context becomes quite a challenge. The place where I think everything comes together is with the exam objectives. We've mentioned this in this study group. We've only brought it up, I don't know, 1 million times at this point, but it's worth bringing up one more time. In fact, I'll bring up a copy of my course notes here for everybody who is watching so that they can get a feel for what these are. This is a set of the course notes. It's a PDF. And one of the things that is remarkable is that it gives you step-by-step, section by section, everything you need to know. So in section 1.0 and domain 1.0 for mobile devices, section 1.1 is given a scenario, install and configure laptop hardware and components. All right, what does that mean? Well, it means you need to know hardware and device replacement scenarios for keyboards, hard drives, which include SSD and hybrid and magnetic disk. It includes what apparently was 1.8-inch and 2.5-inch drives, memory, hard smart card readers, optical drives, wireless cards, cellular cards, video cards, mini PCI Express, et cetera, et cetera. It keeps going bullet by bullet by bullet. This is a great checklist. If anybody watching this is trying to figure out how do I break this up into its more specific components and just bite off a little bit at a time and chew on this little bit of information, this is a great checklist to be able to do that. And in fact, all my videos follow the same numbering scheme. All of my course notes follow the exact same scheme. The first section of my course notes is on mobile devices, laptop hardware. Can't see it there, but it's laptop hardware, because we go through keyboards, hard drives, displays, mini PCI Express, all the little pieces of dealing with the connectors and the little pieces of it. It's a way that you could break it up into smaller pieces so it's not overwhelming, so that you can do it in a methodical way, so that you can make sure you cover everything you have to know. And almost all of the books, all of the videos, everything you're going to find will have some type of cross-tabulation, so that even if a book is not written to the same format or the same order as the course notes, they will tell you in the book, this chapter is for section 1.4. This chapter is for section 3.2. So you'll be able to put together what part of the book matches the part of the exam objectives I'm trying to get through. Everybody works a little bit differently. Everybody uses the different resources in a different way. But I think if you have this checklist, it helps you kind of put things into context, break down very small parts at a time, and then allows you to find the pieces that you're really looking for.
Okay. I mean, I think it was really just the technical jargon. I am tech savvy, but I'm not theory savvy. So as I begin to watch your videos, I was just like, I don't understand what these words mean. So, I'll do that. And I guess for my own benefit, I just have to do more research on what exactly the words mean, because I think it's the technical jargon that is the barrier for me more than anything. And I believe CompTIA, like even the questions are like that. So that's the tricky part. Even when I was doing your study group, I was just like, I knew some of the answers, but it was still kind of the way the questions were, I guess, format, the way they were asking the questions, it was kind of hard to pick a choice.
We've all been there. We've all had the cases where we've had to kind of pour through a bit of technical information and have to stop and say, what are they talking about when they say that thing? And then we've had to go to a third-party source. And that's why the very first video of my A+ series says, use these videos, but also get a good book, get some hands-on, go get some good Q&A. I try to tell people it's not any one thing. It's a mix of a lot of different things you're going to put together to really put all of these things in context.
Okay, and I have another question as far as the exam questions. For multiple choice, do you have to answer more than one? Like, are they going to ask a question and you're going to have to take two or three more choices rather than just one?
Not usually. There are some questions you'll run into where they will ask you for multiple answers, but on the CompTIA exams, they tell you how many you should be picking. So they'll say pick 2 or pick 3, select 4, whatever the number happens to be. There's not a lot of those, though. They're pretty rare, actually. You might get 1, maybe 2 of those on your exam. Almost all of the multiple choice questions are a single answer multiple choice.
Okay, and I was going to ask you, I am new in IT, just breaking into IT, and I just want to know how to, I guess, some tips on gaining experience. I am still looking for the help desk positions, but I don't have my A+ certification yet, so it's more customer service based, and then just kind of helping, family members and friends and into technology and stuff like that. It's not necessarily work experience. So I was wondering how I can, I guess, gain more experience, like what I can do at home. I just got a I don't know what it's called, the Dell desktop PC, and I got a USB hub. It's not a switch, it's a hub. By Office Connect. It's old. It's pretty old. Like, my father used to work on these systems, so he just kind of gave it to me just for practice.
Great.
So I was wondering what you can offer as far as that, like any tips and stuff like that, because I have no idea what to do with this PC and this hub. It's not a switch. It's an old school hub.
Well, one of the things that I put in my video on how to get a job in IT with no experience was I tried to cover all four of those different elements. One was get a formal education. One was get certifications. One was know somebody who works there. But there's that other element that's important, which is practical experience. Employers love to see some type of experience, except if you don't have experience, how are you supposed to get the job that they would like you to get experience with? It's that catch-22 that is the constant. One of the things that I tell people, though, is that you can make your own experience. We talked a little bit with these previous callers about creating your own labs, and I give some example of labs in that video of building out your own Active Directory lab with Windows Server, building out your own firewall lab for security. So there's different things that you could build. And with A+, if you got an extra machine, you could start taking apart the machine and seeing what's inside, looking at the motherboard and see if you can get it back together. That type of thing is a useful task as well, especially if it's something that you know works now. Take it apart, put it back together, and see if you're able to get it working again. That also gives some recommendations in the video how to get a job in IT with no experience, where I recommend one of the things that you can do to get experience from a third party. And there's places where you may be able to find a family member or someone your family knows who has a job where they can bring you in as an intern. Maybe it's something where you're just going to a nonprofit and you're just making sure that their antivirus is up to date every week and making sure their computers are running okay. Maybe it's a volunteer position. All of those are practical experience. You might not be getting paid for it, but it's something you put on a resume and say, oh yeah, I support their systems. I go in every week. We make sure that their systems are up to date. We make sure they got their patches. We make sure their antivirus is working properly. We make sure nobody's infected. We fix the printer that never seems to work. And that's what I do for them every week. That's good practical experience. It's something that probably wouldn't take a lot of time out of your schedule, but it's something you could put on a resume. So there's lots of ways to do this. It's just finding the way that works best for you.
Okay. I definitely will try that. I actually know some people, so I definitely will try that. Thank you. I appreciate that. And one more last question, and this just has to do with the cover letters, because actually I've been watching you talking about doing cover letters. That's all I've been doing, is because I don't have work experience, but I do have some knowledge. Like I said, I'm an Apple enthusiast, so a little knowledge on Windows, but mostly Apple, and so and also phones too, like computer repair and mobile phone repair.
Right.
So these things I put in my cover letter as far as, I have eager to learn. I have a passion for technology, so this is what I do know, and kind of run with that. But my thing is, when you address somebody on a cover letter when you don't know I don't know what you call it, information technology supervisor, or I don't know exactly the title, but I've asked this before, who do you exactly address? Because if you don't know their LinkedIn and you're just going for a company, you don't know who the head of the department is, of the IT department, how do you address them on a cover letter?
The to whom it may concern is a perfectly reasonable way to start a cover letter, or dear HR, dear hiring manager. That part is not the most important part. The most important part is everything that comes after that, which is I saw your request for a position to fill the insert title of position here. I feel the requirements you've asked for fit perfectly with the skills I have available, and colon, and now you've got your T-chart. You asked for this, here's what I can provide. You asked for this, here's another thing I provide. You asked for this, I've got skills here. So you can list out 3 or 4 things into that T format, where you are going down the list of what they've specifically asked for, and you're telling them, yep, I can do that. Yep, I can do that. Yep, I can do that as well. Thanks for your time, sincerely, and you're out. That's all you need to do. It doesn't have to be formal. There doesn't have to be a lot of thought behind who's he ultimately reading this, because it may pass through 6 or 7 or 10 people. But to whom it may concern, it's a perfectly reasonable way to do that.
Okay, so basically just get to the point, right?
Yep, fine. They've got a list they've already created and spent a lot of time putting together that job posting. It has a list, maybe even a set of bullets of what they're looking for. Repeat the bullets back to them and show them how you match every single one of the bullets that they would like to fill.
Okay, I'm going to purchase a voucher through you, but I want to know now, can I take the test at home, or do I have to go to a location to take it still? I don't know based on the COVID.
The vouchers that are on my site work for online or in person. It doesn't matter. So if you're someone who prefers going to a testing center and sitting in the room and taking the test on one of their computers, the voucher will work fine for that. A lot of people like taking the exam at home. I don't know if I'm one of those people, but it's worked extremely well for some people. Has not worked so great for other folks. There's advantages and disadvantages for doing that. But the vouchers on my site and the vouchers that you get really from anywhere, you can apply towards either one of those testing environments.
Okay. Well, thank you, Professor Meza. I really appreciate all your help with what you're doing for the community.
Thanks,
and
Megan.
For us newbies for IT.
Best of luck.
Have a good day.
You're doing all the right stuff.
Thank you. Have a good day.
One of the things I think is a challenge for anybody trying to get a job in IT is just getting through that process. So if you have not watched my video of how to get a job in IT with no experience, it's a 30-minute video. I mean, almost to the second. It's like 29 minutes and 59 seconds long. And it is just chock full of information. There are no dead spots in that video. But I made it because I get a lot of questions like that during the study group, and I obviously don't have 30 minutes to go through every single one of those things. Sometimes I can answer the questions. Sometimes I leave things out. So I made the video so that I miss nothing. I put everything into that video. So I recommend, if you haven't had a chance to see that video, make sure you have a look at it. Let's go back to the phone. 773 area code. Hi, caller. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Oh, are you talking to me?
I am talking to you.
Thank you. Hi, my name is Mary.
Hi, Mary.
And I was just calling to thank you. I have been following you actually for several years and updating my experience. I'm old as sin in terms of IT, and
welcome aboard.
I just passed the security. Yeah, right. I just turned 59 last week, and anyhow, I just passed my Security Plus exam, and I wanted to thank you because I owe your materials all of the credit. Yes, I know I did the hard work, but your materials are fantastic.
I'll take just a little. I'll take the tiniest sliver of that off of it then, if that's the case. But you really did do the hard part. That's a hard exam. Now, did you take the 501 or the 601?
I did. I followed your advice and took the 501.
I think you were.
Take the 501.
I think you're better off.
Yeah, and so hopefully, I hope that it helps me. I've had just briefly. It's been quite a month because I've worked in IT for 25 years. 20 years for one organization and the last 5 for another, and my job was just eliminated. My last day was June 30th, and I took the Security Plus thinking, wow, this will help me in my job search and stuff, and I've been sending out like 5 resumes a day, and by some miracle, the organization that I worked for put in a lot of work with the company that they outsourced our IT department to, and I just had an interview with them, and I start tomorrow.
Wow.
So,
There's a lot of highs and lows going on there.
And, yes. And when I told them that I just passed my Security Plus a couple of weeks ago, the gentleman said, "Oh, okay, we know what we can do with that."
All right.
So anyhow, I thank you so much, and I'm going to keep on. I listen to all of your shows when I can. It doesn't matter. Security, network, A+, you are just a wealth of information, and I thank you for everything.
Well, that's a fantastic story. You've made my day, Mary. Thank you for calling. Congratulations on bouncing back and getting that job, and best of luck.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Okay, take care now.
You too. That was a great story. We don't need any more calls. I know we've sort of hit the end of our calls and the end of the show, and we've run out of time, but what a great way to send that one out. Thank you for calling, Mary. I love getting stories like that. It's one that you could do too. This is not magic. This is not something that is impossible to do. This is not something that you have to struggle through to get. We got a lot of people here that can help you. We've got a lot of people in the industry that want to help you. I find this to be a fantastic industry for helping others and making sure we can all get to where we need to be. All you have to do is ask for it. There's great resources on my site and many other places you can go. If you have any interest in technology, in information technology, in wanting to have a job or a better job, this is a great place to be. So keep working that angle. It's a great way to earn a living. It's a great way to move up. It's a great way to support your family, and it's a lot of fun. You meet some great people while you're doing it. There are, of course, this study group today. In 2 days, on Thursday, assuming we're not blown away by the tropical storm, we will be here on Thursday. Check back in 12 noon Eastern. We'll do another one of these live study groups for the 220-1002 exam. So we'll do more A+. And then next week is Network Plus, and the week after that, Security Plus. Just keep coming back. We'll make more videos. We'll keep doing this. It's a lot of fun doing these live streams, and I appreciate you being here with us. Thanks for joining us. We will see you next time on the A+ Study Group. Thanks, everyone.